The president has always said, and of course it's a decision by the African Union, that for Africa to have a better engagement within a framework with other external entities, whether it's a nation or whether it's a union or a region, for example, EU or a country like Russia, if they want to engage Africa, a decision was made by the African Union heads of state. They decided that they will be represented by organs of the African Union to such meetings, because that goes beyond a one-on-one meeting or bilateral meeting between a president and a president. It's between Russia and Africa, and the organ, therefore, that represents Africa, according to that decision of the Assembly, is the African Union.
Azimio will hold nationwide prayers tomorrow for victims of police brutality who were killed and injured during the anti-government protest. DAPK party leader Eugene Wamalwa said they'll hold further prayers Saturday and Sunday before they decide the way forward next week.
We want to say poleni kwa wale wote wamepoteza wapendwa wenu. We want to assure you by this Friday we will be having an interdenominational service. We will continue with the morning and the prayers through the weekend. We will be going to different parts of Kenya to mourn with you. That is what we will be doing.
The coalition further said that according to reports, more than 30 people died, with most of them being as a result of gunshot wounds during the protest.
For the slain and injured heroes of this struggle, we will hold interdenominational prayers on Friday here in Nairobi, and they should also be replicated in the counties across the country. We will bless the souls of the injured and the dead. We will pray for our police to know that the people they brutalize, maim and kill are indeed their brothers, their sisters and fellow citizens.
These are Kenyans from Kisii, Homa Bay, Mombasa, Busia and Nakuru counties lit candles in remembrance of their loved ones for the condemning police force. Kenyans expressing themselves from different parts of the country. Now, Busia Senator Okoh Omtata has filed his supporting document in the petition challenging the Finance Act 2023 ahead of the hearing set for tomorrow. Omtata says that during the hearing of the suit, he will be demonstrating to the three-judge bench that the passing of the finance bill was unlawful. The High Court has since suspended the Finance Act 2023 pending the hearing of 10 petitions filed against it. And Chief Government pathologist Johansen Nodwar led his team in conducting autopsies on 10 bodies exhumed from Chakama Ranch linked to the Shakahola starvation cult. He says 4 of the victims died due to starvation, but they were not able to determine what killed 6 of them as the bodies were excessively decomposed.
Managed to do 10 postmortems. 9 were children while 1 was an adult. About 4 of them died because of starvation, but 6 of them we were unable to establish. The reason being that they were decomposed to a level that we were unable to get anything meaningful in a form of a cause of death. The number of males were 4 while females were 3, but 3 of them we were unable to tell the gender. All of them were actually markedly decomposed.
And the High Court has suspended the move by the Firearm Licensing Board to revoke the license of retired President Uhuru Kenyatta's son, Jomo. Justice Jarius Nga also directed that the petitioner serves the Chief Licensing Officer, the Firearm Licensing Board and the Attorney General with the petition ahead of the hearing set for September 27th. Jomo had challenged the decision by the Chief Licensing Officer to cancel his firearm certificate without reason. And the Nairobi court has ordered for the arrest of Nakuru Senator Tabitha Karanja over failure to appear for the hearing of a tax-related case. The lawmaker in April pleaded not guilty to fresh tax evasion charges after the prosecution amended the charge sheet in the 14.5 billion shillings tax evasion case. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's petty, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders.
3, 2.
Everybody, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Heri Latifa, Muga, Madam Du, nimesalamia wote sana.
Tumepokea salamu, asante sana.
Hapa Garissa today the weather is very good, only that baridi inatupeleka mbio sana.
Baridi ni degree ngapi hapo?
Hata sijui lakini madam tunakauka sana.
If you want to follow the money trail, you've got to think like a thief to be able to catch that thief.
A slap from a friend is better than a kiss from an enemy. You remember the kiss of Judas Iscariot? Iscariot.
Yes.
Is the one that imetuweka kwa hii mashida yote na mataabu kwa sababu of that kiss. Yet the slap of Jesus Christ when he slapped those guys and walikuwa anauza mboga ndani ya kanisa took them to heaven.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing police of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. And hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
You tune into Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Ramanyang.
Amen. Amen.
So 1 hour is over?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It gets over.
Can you imagine
in 20 minutes?
What the big boys have also done?
I'm very proud of myself.
When you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, oh, you know, maybe you can help me pay for fees as I pay for the rent.
Why should you have a lioness living in your bedroom?
I have to tell you a story. I went for a prayer meeting which was called for the spouses of candidates for senators and governors. And when I got to the gate, the lady who was the secretary, she refused to, she's telling me, no. Leo tunataka wa mama. Leo ni wa mama. I'm telling her, no. She said, no, sio siku yenu. And I thought, there's a problem here, you know, because if it was a man, but this was a lady.
It will be called First Ladies until you change the name.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
It's Thursday morning and a big good morning to you. Where are you this morning? Have you gotten onto the streets of this Nairobi or on the streets of any other cities within the Republic? Good morning to you. If you're on the Thika Superhighway, you'll be fine all the way into the CBD, at least for now. And we're not seeing any action on Kiambu Road just yet. On Waiaki Way coming into the city, it's easy streets, literally. And we're seeing a slight buildup of traffic on Jogo Road as you're getting into the city. Uhuru Highway is looking pretty good. Now, if you are inbound on Mombasa Road, you'll find that there's a bit of a diversion and you have to get onto the southern bypass and then come round into the city. If you're coming into Mombasa Road, then you're going to have to go on the wrong side of the road. The construction on the lower road is in full swing. They might remove that closer to 7 o'clock, but we'll keep an eye on things and see how that opens up. Just a word of warning for you this morning. Let's talk in a short while and see how it opens up closer to 6:30. Let's talk on Spice FM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Thursday, the 27th day of July 2023. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. 11 minutes after 6. Ndu.
Yeah.
How are you?
I am fine, thank you.
Hey. Very good.
Yes, sir.
Very good to see you.
Thank you very much. It's good to see you too, man.
Yeah. This weather of ours is doing those things.
I know.
Today it's like this, tomorrow it's like that.
How about a
It's like
dichotomy
this and
of
like
things?
this and like
Yesterday
that,
morning
Ednah,
was
like this.
freezing. And then in the afternoon, the sun was blazing, man.
It just keeps changing.
I know.
One way or another. Hey, have a seat.
No many steps.
Hey.
I was about to start.
Talk to the mic.
Not many
Eh?
Good morning. Why have you removed your eyeglass? I've never seen you in eyeglass. Then now you want to remove it.
I should stay like this.
Let's see the eyeglass.
Wanjiru Gikonyo.
All uniform.
Good morning.
Are we on air?
Yes.
This
is a radio station.
What did you think you were coming?
Yeah.
City is misleading me, thinking I have time to settle down and say hellos. And been a long time.
Hiya.
Yeah.
Hiya.
Yes.
How are you?
Very well.
It's been a while.
It has been.
Hey.
But I've been listening to you guys.
Really?
Bringing exciting guests, fascinating guests.
Like who?
Who tell us shocking things.
Like?
I was listening to John Allen. You know, I have to pursue my issues of interest.
Right.
And I was like, for real?
Have you watched the series?
I haven't.
Oh, no, you should watch.
I will.
The 2 episodes that are out.
I will.
Third one should be coming out this week.
Yes, it should.
It's giving us in those doses.
Yes.
Once every 2 weeks.
Yes. Yeah?
Complete the dose.
Who else did I watch that was quite mind-opening? I can't remember right now.
Kioni.
Yeah?
You watch Kioni?
Well, maybe not Kioni. It wasn't a politician.
It wasn't a politician.
It wasn't a politician. Not to say there are no politicians with good ideas. No, that is not what I am espousing here.
That is exactly what you've said.
No, you're so typical of media, putting words in my mouth, misrepresenting me.
You've been misquoted.
You actually.
And then I've also done a jump. I'm behaving like government.
What you say is actually true. I have put words in your mouth.
Yes.
That is true.
Right.
It's called interpreting what you've said.
Yes. Of course, I listen to Omtata.
Of course, he's not a politician.
He is a politician, yeah, but he's so just to disprove myself and yourself. So finished. Can we move on to the next agenda?
City,
bro,
how are you?
Very well, thanks.
Good morning.
Morning, Do. How are you doing?
I am fine, thank you.
Very good.
You sure?
Am I sure?
Yes.
That I'm fine?
Yeah, I'm just asking.
Yes.
One has to be certain about these things.
Indeed, one does.
You know, Nyeri just raised the bar. Because one moment we're not talking about politicians, then the next moment we're talking about politicians. So I'm wondering, what are we talking about exactly?
I've been away for a while. You could at least give me a softer welcome.
Wanjiru was right throughout. Is that soft enough?
Politicians and civic activists. That'll do it. Tata is only part politician, but like 20% so far.
10. In fact, not even 10.
Yes.
Just the other day.
He's showing civic activists. Yes. You can do your activism and then go into parliament so you can be paid to do your civic activism. That's a good way. He's a winner. And
Hivo.
You're thinking ahead.
May he not be swallowed.
You're thinking ahead.
May he,
2027
I
is
need
coming.
a strategy.
Yes.
Might just work.
It may just work. Everybody, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. Wanjiru Gikonyo, She's an advocate for good governance and accountability. She's our guest host today. She will be here with us until the end of the show. Let me tell you what we'll be discussing at 7 a.m. We'll talk about very many issues, national politics and governance, and we'll be joined by Nelson Koech, who is the MP for Belgut constituency and chairman of the Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations Committee. He's also here because our sister station Belgut is not what's it called? Berur.
Belgut is the
Berur. Yes, our sister station Berur is partnering with others to help the Belgut Marathon, running for the needy students of Belgut Starehe schools. And the Honorable Koech will be here to tell us what this Belgut Marathon is all about. It's in his constituency. 8 a.m., let's talk about the ICT sector in the country. We'll be joined by the Cabinet Secretary for Information, Communication and the Digital Economy, Elio Dowalo. And then at 9 a.m., we're seeing what's happening in the country. Our political leaders, our national leaders, are the top leaders in the country promoting Chapter 6 ideals. Public spat. Oh, where will you find? Oh, funny. Oh, hey. Are they doing that? Anne Ireri is the executive director of the FIDA, and she's also in ILOG. She's a chairperson of ILOG. Yeah, ILOG is Election Observation Group. Observers are
inside their elections.
This something. Yeah, those ones. It's a consortium of various bodies that come together in to observe elections. Haya, hiyo yote iko sawa. Now let's get straight into it. Weather. And then we say hello, and then we get into the newspaper reviews. Senor?
Sawa.
Yes, we need to do that. And we'll be telling you about pre-owned motor vehicles, courtesy of Automac.
Yes.
Automac. It's in Bellevue. Shiro, you know Bellevue?
Yes.
That road.
I'm of that.
That road.
Yes.
What's that road called?
I don't know.
The road branching off Mombasa
off that road. And
yes.
I used to say, near Bellevue.
Yes. And it wasn't near Wanjiru. It was like 3 kilometers.
But that's how it was to say.
It's not 100 kilometers.
Ukishuka matatu utembea kilomita 3 umeenda Ruiru.
Which road are you talking about? Just before. Which one? Popo Road. Oh.
The road off Mombasa Road, heading towards Bellevue. Going in, going that way, going into Bellevue.
Right. So Bellevue is there near the junction.
What's the name of the road?
No, I've been told. It's Popo Road.
Yes, it is.
Popo Road.
Is it Popo?
Is it Popo the fruit?
No, Popo is P-A-W-P-A-W.
Yes.
This is Popo.
Popo.
The fruit is pawpaw.
Pai.
The road is called Popo Road.
Popo Road.
Yes.
Okay, now I know. Thank you.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice FM, Malindi.
12 degrees and cloudy in Nairobi this morning. Highs of 22 today. It's partly cloudy at 14 in Nakuru, highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 21 in a mostly cloudy Nyeri at 13. It's 14 and cloudy in Eldoret, highs of 22. We'll see lows of 13 today, and partly cloudy conditions in Mombasa, going to highs of 28 and lows of 22. 24 and partly cloudy in Malindi, highs of 28 today. It'll come down to lows of 24. It's 15 at 19 and cloudy in Kisumu, highs of 28. And we'll see highs of 28 in Kakamega, where it's partly cloudy at 14. 15 and clear in Kampala, highs of 28. And we'll see highs of 28 as well in a partly cloudy Dar es Salaam at 23. It's 10 degrees and partly cloudy in Johannesburg, highs of 20 and lows of 9. Mostly cloudy at 26 in Lagos, highs of 30. And we'll see highs of 33 in a hazy Kinshasa at 21. It's partly sunny at 31. Looking out into Beijing on Thursday afternoon, we'll see highs of 34. It's 19 and cloudy in Paris, going to highs of 23. And 21 will be the high in a cloudy London at 16. An excessive heat warning has been given for New York Wednesday night. It is 25. Through the night, it'll go to highs of 31 and lows of 23.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
Deep State is out of the blocks, guns blazing, and says Ednah, leo ukizima YouTube tunakuja hapo na sufuria. Ednah? Ednah has responded well. Good morning. Brian Gitari says, locked in 100. Mwalimu asalimiwe. Mwalimu umesalimiwa.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Tuned in from Adelaide in Australia. Good morning from Roiro. That's Shafi, sorry. Raphael Kingori says, good morning. Tuned in from where? Narrow Moro. Have a nice show. Muga and Latiff, the puncher, drink coffee and pig your cold. Jeremiah Mutai says, good morning, Spice. Tuned in from Mangu. Somebody else here was in Mangu. Desmond Oti says, good morning, Princess. Please, can you notice how people have fallen in line and are calling me by my title? My proper title. Thank you very much.
Princess.
Thank you very much.
Another Nigerian princess.
Yes, it's true. If I start going down
Yet
the lineage,
another one.
The lineage of royalty, you people will fear me. Anyway, good morning from Kimana and this side of Kilimanjaro.
Nanuyo.
Your people.
Where?
Shiro.
Oh, very good morning to you.
Phyllis says good morning as well. Good morning, everybody. In from actually tuned in kama kawaida on my way to hustle hard. Do it, my friend. Tuned in from Nachu, somewhere in Kiambu County. Really? Nachu sounds like somewhere in Midwestern USA. Nachu Pichu. Okay. Opakroth Jokama.
God be praised.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
All those things are just God be praised. Praise God.
Opak Ruth.
Opak Ruth is praise God.
My mother.
That's beautiful.
It is. Toti Bishop. Okay, that's him. Raphael Kingori. Greet Wanjiru Gikonyo. You have been greeted.
Oh, thank you.
Is it adequate?
Oh, yes.
Thank you very much.
It is. No title, no prefix. Just
Not for now. Just wait.
I'll hang out with you.
Let me show you how we do these things.
I know.
Linda Gola says, good morning, team. So nice to see Wanjiru. Do you see? I've told you, small. It's coming.
Thank you.
Joe Mongai says, good morning. Watching from Bonnie Lake in Washington. Hi, and my name has no apostrophe. Latif and CT. Spice FM is the real Babalao. Do you know Babalao is in Nigeria? He's the father of witch doctors. I can't stop watching and listening, so that would explain everything now, wouldn't it? Good morning.
The juju has been spread.
The Babalao
is cooked here. The juju is cooked here.
Hey. Okay.
Witchcraft or witchcraft?
Babalao. If you say you're going to see Babalao, Omo, be afraid. You start walking backwards into the house.
Do you see me?
Even me, I don't see me. Azaria, another one has greeted you and said, in this Texas, we will not sleep until Wanjiru talks. Oh, I greet the people.
I am blessed. Thank you, my Texas sisters, brothers.
All right. Hello to you. I'm glad that you've all woken up healthy and full of energy. Buona Sifire. Amen. Tuning from Gong in Kajiado. That's Teacher Bunde. Leonard Kamal says, good morning. Spice tuned in. Good morning from Ternopil in the Ukraine. Interesting. Carol Nyabura says, good morning. Good morning from Imara Daima. Enjoying the show as usual. Hey, good people tuning in from Mombasa. Tony Odipo is tuned in from Mogadishu. And James Sekento is calling from Kererapon. Hey. People from Kerara porn.
Yes.
Porn. Okay.
No. Just do it together.
Derek Onyango says, Tujenge Taifa, he's tuned in from Oyugis, and Benson Masharia Kirathe is tuned in from Pekatoni and Lamu. Good morning, gang. Tuned in from a cold Kikuyu town, Kiambu County. And Afi Kab says, good morning, Spice team. He's tuned in from Calgary in Canada. Quite a number of people tuned in this morning. We see you. Pauline Shiro, Titus Cheer, Joel Kichwen, Priya Mkana Shinangoy, Karibuni Sana Nyote.
Kila Mutu. So Wanjiru has been listening to us, regularly. And this week she has. This week's Proverbs, Wanjiru, where are they from?
Trying to remember. Hey, is this a test? I came to do a test.
It's not a test.
No, it's not a test.
It's not a test.
Is it an East African country?
You know
the one.
You know the one East African country?
It's from Africa. Thank you very much. See, today I can see you on a slight warpath or passive-aggressive warpath.
No. Okay,
I'm trying to remember.
Southern Africa.
Oh, it is Southern Africa. Yes, it's something about, so it's Southern Africa.
Begins with an L, that country.
Oh, Kwani, what was I listening to? All right, I would have said that.
Lebanon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lesotho. Lebanon, Lesotho.
Where?
Yes. Here.
Lebanon.
Here.
Yes.
This is going to say Beirut. Surely.
Lebanon, Lesotho.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you go to school?
Today's proverb?
Yes.
That's a proverb. Huh? This one is going to be interesting because even I found it interesting. When a ripe fruit sees an honest man, it drops.
When a ripe fruit sees an honest man,
it drops.
It drops. Fruit.
Fruit.
Hey.
Okay.
Fruit.
Excuse me.
I'm sure we are all laughing for different reasons.
Fruit.
But Latiff is the most wicked of them. Tell us what you're imagining this fruit is.
Matunda.
The tunda is the one that drops.
Like mango, guava,
okay, apple,
avocado. But I think, is it a fruit or a vegetable?
Hey. What's wrong with you people this morning?
It's a superfood.
It's a superfood. Just take it like that. It can be a fruit. It can be a... Which one do you want it to be?
Anyway, we will look at different interpretations of this one as we go. When a ripe fruit sees an honest man,
it drops.
It drops.
It drops.
Which country
It's Lesotho.
You just be all right.
Okay, headlines.
All right, on the front page of the Standard this morning, what are we looking at? Hardliners fears over Ruto-Raila deal in the making. And it is said that people around don't really want this to happen. Leaders from the two political divides are jittery over a possible deal between the president and the opposition leader that might render them orphans. Okay. All right. A herder without hands is a top academic. I thought that was an interesting story for us to look into. Teachers, civil servants, shock over pay cuts. Hello? Uhuru's son wins first court gun battle with the DCI. Did they have to die is also a question here. It's a caption above a picture of folks putting candles at a memorial service in honor of victims who died during the demonstrations. Okay, there's a lot to comment about that. On the front page of The Nation, the big shift. President Ruto, his predecessor Kenyatta, and Azimio chief Odinga are seemingly dropping their earlier hardline positions, with the latter two now acknowledging the Ruto presidency and the former inviting the opposition chief for talks on the current protests that have also moved from the row over the 2022 polls to the high cost of living. So let's see that as well. There's also a picture from those vigils that were held yesterday. I want to look at this. An opportunity to make Kenya shine. American legend tips Omanyala to shine. He's on the cusp of making history. Michael Johnson, did tweet the other day, and he said something about this guy. He's running in a really special way right now, and he could be the first African to be atop the medals for the 100 meters, just from the way he's performing. So let's look into that story.
From his mouth to
God's ears. KRA plans to backdate new taxes.
Yeah.
How's that possible?
That's I mean, how else would it go?
They cannot start the way
they start when they get the clearance.
Wait, delay.
Okay, that's it. Pay shocker awaits workers as KRA readies for new taxes. They're sharpening their tools. They're in the gym doing like this. They're just waiting for the time. They're ready to go. All right. Gachagua hints at impending changes in the country's diplomatic corps. So that'll be interesting to look at. And that's what I've got.
We are shuffling them, eh?
Yes, please.
Okay. The Business Daily. Banks to access secret state database in dirty cash fight. Financial institutions will soon be granted access to a state database on secret owners of companies to enable them swiftly flag and report suspicious transactions involving people using proxies, friends and relatives to evade the anti-money laundering law. So you can transact 10 million shillings in a day, because you're using different companies with different directors, but the beneficial owner is Mtu Moja. So banks will now be able to know beneficial owner, come on, flag it. Hi. The other headline here is states to backdate new taxes should court lift freeze order, and you've just read it in The Nation as well. Ticker headlines. This one will be of interest to Wanjiru Gikonyo. How Nairobi Water lost 10 billion shillings via undeclared income and faulty meters. The Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company lost over 10 billion in the financial year ended June 2022 due to faulty water meters, unreconciled financial statements, and unscrupulous allowances paid to its staff, according to a new report. Yes, you're still in the revenue thingy magic of the Nairobi City County.
Let me put it this way.
All right.
Let me put the facts, present the facts as they are.
Okay.
There was a Gazette notice. My name was on the Gazette notice alongside some other very illustrious Kenyans.
Yes. Appointing you to what?
To be a board member of the Nairobi Revenue Authority.
All right.
Yes.
That's a KRA of Nairobi.
Alafu, that's the story. Imefika hapo.
So you've been gazetted, but there's nothing else.
In all other manners or matters, I am the same as you.
Excuse me.
Same as you.
When they were gazetting your name,
were you aware?
They informed you before?
I was informed. We were informed.
And you agreed I would take the position.
Of course, I jumped at it. Nairobi Revenue. That's a very exciting position.
Tell us about
However,
that. You will tell us about. I will look at this story.
Yes.
City Giver, the Business Daily. It's on page 4. Savannah Cement creditors asked to submit their claims. That's on the other ticker headline. And private equity firm Evercare to raise 7 billion shillings for hospitals. City, Ebu tell us about the star. And then we take a break. And then we'll now chambua them.
Okay. Top right-hand corner in teal green.
It's back.
It's back. Yesterday was a slight aberration.
Okay.
Inheritance dispute. Woman fights to prove she is late Minister Nyachaya's widow. The story is on page 9.
Okay.
Lengthy story. This one is going to be with us for a while.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we go to the very bottom of the page. Dark secrets of rich Kenyans.
Dark secrets.
Dark, yes. Dark.
Of rich Kenyans.
Yes. Wealthy families smuggling daughters to circumcisers.
Huh?
Yes. Wealthy
So
families.
FGM is taking place.
Yes, it's taking place.
Okay.
Okay. You know this one? Anyway. Attackers unknown. Family of Boda Boda man burnt to death seek justice. This is a man who was burnt to death in Homa Bay County. Breaking the ceiling. I love my job. Woman helps preserve bodies in mortuary. Then bang in the middle of the page, an easy ceasefire. President tweeted on Tuesday night his readiness to meet Raila. Ruto troops welcome talks, reject handshake. Odinga trashes Ruto tweet as PR gimmick, says president not serious about invite. The story is on page 4 and 5.
So how does he know he's not serious? Anyway, okay.
That's the headline. That's not the story. That's the headline.
That's just the headline?
Yes, headlines and stories are not the same thing.
Let's take a break and then we'll look at the stories in detail shortly. 27 minutes to 7. So you were telling us about Automark.
Yeah. And I was telling you, are you looking for a pre-owned vehicle? Please do not say second-hand. Do not say what. Pre-owned vehicle. And so what Automark has done, which by the way is a subsidiary, it's the pre-owned subsidiary of CFAO Motors. And what they've done is said, look, let's do the selection for you. You come, we put it on a platform so you know this is the mileage on this vehicle, this is how much it's going to cost. Has it been in an accident and you still want it? Then you may go ahead. But what they've done is that they've said this is the real state of the situation. You may go ahead and purchase. We can also provide vehicle financing for you. So many things. Go to Popper Road and find out this information. 4th and 5th of August, there's an exhibition. Pre-owned vehicles purchase made easy.
Sawa. It's the 27th day of July. It's Thursday. It's Showmax Thursday. Faithless Thursday. Go to showmax.com and watch episode 4 coming out today.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start
All right, let's look how things may have changed right around 6:30 this morning. There's a little bit of traffic coming in on the thicker superhighway. It's going to take you through to the CBD. Well, it's not going to be too sticky, at least not for now. Just around the Pangani underpass is where you see some movement. And we're also seeing something happening on Jogoo Road as usual. It's going to be busy as you come off that Makadara train station area and then get out towards the City Stadium roundabout. Landy's looking good for now as it is at the Kamkunji roundabout. There's nothing happening on Wayaki where, well, people are moving. Nothing happening being there's no traffic per per se, but it's something to watch out for as we get closer to traffic hour. All right, Southern Bypass looking good all the way from Mombasa Road out towards Ngong Road at the connection, and we're not seeing much on Magadi Road except when you're just at that Ongatarangai junction and then you're coming out towards the Multimedia University. You'll see some traffic there. Keep an eye on things, folks. Let's talk on Spice FM KE on Twitter.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
To look at very many stories.
Okay, let me tell you something really quickly about this. I mean, it's everywhere. So look at the vigil that took place yesterday and the questions over, was this a show? Was it really for
the victims,
or was it a political move? And just looking at the question, did families have to die? Did anybody have to die? It doesn't matter what side they were on. Did anybody really have to die in these demonstrations, in these protests, whether they were and is it possible to say that some deaths happened by mistake, were others intentional? But the story that carries it is that jitters in Azimio, Kenya Kwanza, over plans for Ruto and Raila talks, the possibility of a political deal between President William Ruto and opposition chief Raila Odinga is causing jitters in their backyard. The generals around these two individuals may not be very comfortable with any kind of confirmation of settlement of dispute or some kind of talk, and they're saying absolutely not. We did see the president then have a sit down with Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu yesterday. Who knows what they discussed in the corners? I'm sorry that when you came I was not available, kind of thing. Whatever happened,
and we spoke.
As he was off to Dar es Salaam, or rather off to Dodoma, the president said yesterday in a tweet that he was ready to have a conversation with Raila Odinga when he comes back to the country today. My friend Raila Odinga, I'm off to Tanzania for a human capital meeting to harmonize the expansion of employment opportunities in our continent. I'm back tomorrow evening, and as you have always known, I'm available to meet one-on-one with you anytime at your convenience. Oh, nice. Whereas the opposition leader dismissed the tweet, saying if the president wanted to talk, he knew where to find me. Those in the know say a team had been put together to craft a deal. In an apparent indication that the leaders will engage in dialogue, there are fears among members of the two rival teams of a repeat of the impugned 2018 handshake. This is the handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga that ended the post-election tension but soured relations between the head of state and his then deputy Ruto, as it soon created political orphans who had previously thrived in defending their masters. I can see how this is the situation. Because if until today all we're being told about is certain things happened as a result of the handshake, we are in a condition because the handshake took place. We were then political orphans because of the handshake. And if this were to repeat itself, then you can see how the generals who today are enjoying some kind of, position or expediency would be out in the cold if another handshake happened.
Why are there jitters on Raila's side?
Why would they? Well, they want to keep up this situation of being the protagonist.
Implying they have more to gain and less to lose.
Now they're in the limelight. They're giving you some pressure. If there's a handshake, where will they be?
And they will not all benefit from the handshake.
Very few will, if there is. So the jitters on both sides. Others who say they are also the same argument would be for those on the Ruto side, that they are in the limelight and they're the ones who are essentially calling the shots.
They are.
Now, when you have a handshake, you're new to that position and there's no ammunition in the chamber. So you sit and do your job.
Magic or soup.
This discussion and talk about hardliners in Kenyan politics is a false discussion. Because when you have hardliners, there are people who apparently present themselves as those who are in a position which never moves. They take a stand and they never shift. Our history shows us that such people usually are putting across the views that are held by the leader. Their job is to test the waters. Let's hold on to this position and see how this plays out. And why I say this is because In our politics, the leaders, whether it's Raila Odinga or Ruto, they can get rid of these hardliners when they like. There's nobody there who cannot be gotten rid of. So
everyone's insecure,
yes,
insecure.
exactly. So if this situation persists and this narrative keeps persisting, it's being allowed to persist. And these hardliners have a job to do. Your job is to present yourself as a hardliner.
And it gives them political significance, especially with the base.
Yeah.
Because the base is mobilized and activated by the hardliner. So when you lose that hardline agenda, you now have to find another agenda.
Something else to do.
But it's good that the temperatures have come down. I mean, 31 Kenyans died, including the police officer. And of course, like you're asking, like many Kenyans are asking, what was it for? Is it all in vain? These lives are important. So it's good that the temperatures are down. Yesterday's march tells us many things. It tells us that we are a bit bloodthirsty in this country, that when you have a peaceful demo, it's not as newsworthy as when there's stone throwing and people being killed, even if the issues are as pertinent. I don't know whether I think it's very good to mark those who died. I expected more about the lives that were lost. I expected to hear more citizen voice. I found, whereas I prefer this to the stone throwing, I was still like, our politicians need to listen to the people. Our politicians still occupy the space for the people. And as long as that happens, our fundamental issues will go unaddressed. So even if Raila, and it's good that Ruto has reached out, and we imagine that Raila's advisors, I hope will tell him to go, because Raila is also out of options, because I think the country is slowly turning against the idea of quote-unquote violent riots where people die.
Which part of the country are you referring to, Wanjiru?
I'm saying a lot, even supporters of Raila. Because I think there are many people who supported the demos because they were angry about the tax bill, the Finance Act. But when they saw the human collateral, the tide began to turn against that. So I imagine that the Azimio team are thinking, what are our options to push pressure? Ruto, unlike Uhuru Kenyatta, doesn't own big businesses that you can call an economic boycott, because that was very effective in bringing Uhuru Kenyatta to the table. In 2017, if you recall. Then what are the other? They haven't been effective in Parliament. They were missing in action with the finance bill discussion. So what are his options? And to me, I hope they are going to regroup and look at, they need to get back into the opposition. We don't have an opposition. We are on the streets. I think Azimio has been outplayed on this one, but the issues are still pertinent. But then maybe my last reflection is Azimio's interests are their own political survival. It is not the Kenyan interest. And we need to recognize that Kenyan interests still need to be discussed.
Those ones are still on the table.
Still pending.
And they may not even, actually they are still pending. They may not get to the table. Whatever the table may be. And I think I agree as well. I hope that one of these days when they start penning their memoirs, Ruto and Raila will actually tell us what I have believed for a while to be the truth, that they spoke a long time ago, that this whole journey that we've been through is to sanction what they agreed on a long time ago.
Why explain to me? I really don't understand why Kenyans always imagine that, because this was, a lot of Kenyans said, yes, Uhuru all along had planned for Ruto to win.
No.
And they had a deal, and that's why things went the way they went. And they didn't put the money, they mismanaged their Azimio campaign, whatever. That is why this was the plan. Now here you are, conspiracy theorists, saying despite all that we are seeing, there's a deal between Ruto and Raila.
But because you know that they knew the fallout and how it comes out.
Denialism.
They knew the outcome of a quick resolution to it
would be
you have lost your base. I mean, surely again, you quickly go and shake hands again without any proper conversation around it. You basically have sold us out, to all their support bases.
So Ruto is like, yeah, go ahead, destabilize
right now,
the economy, force Kenya to lose its ranking in the financial markets. Every day,
Wanjiru,
those demonstrations were going on.
Those rankings have been going down despite the mandamano. How many mandamanos are we talking about? 20 of them. The rankings were going down because of our economic situation. Which has slightly just been exacerbated by the mandamano.
Slightly?
Yes.
Have you seen the way where, this country needs to be backed up in terms of foreign investment? Foreign investments needs political stability.
Yes.
So why would Ruto, which scheme, speak to Raila and tell him, destabilize this political economy so that these foreign investors that I'm calling in can come? It's not going to happen.
We're not talking about small-time foreign investors who are coming to open kiosks.
Yes.
The big-time foreign investors who are meeting here.
Who don't care if
they met here in AmCham conference and they discussed. The Minister for Trade has been holding meetings here in this country with big-time foreign investors who think big-time investment, long-term investment.
Have you not?
Those conversations by big-time investors have still been going on.
Yes.
Because even with the mandamano.
Because they have a long-term view. And they have a long-term view.
Exactly.
Not somebody who wants to open at Mayai business downtown.
It's not about eggs. No. Stop deriding egg farmer, small-time egg farmer. Very important. I get my eggs from small-time. Yeah, that's big business.
But Wanjiru,
you're not listening to Suluhu. Why is she looking at Kenya? Because our foreign investors, after they come here and they canvass Kenya, they see mandamano, they cross over to Tanzania. Tanzania FDI is going up.
Actually, interesting. That's a good question.
Yes.
You honestly believe that somebody who is seeking to invest hundreds of billions of shillings, right, over many years, has done research, has decided Kenya is a good prospect,
good destination,
would make a decision in 2 weeks to say, no, let's go and register in Tanzania. It's a decision that's just made whimsically like that. So when Suluhu says, wale wanachoma kwao, watu wameanza kuja hapa, you actually think it's a big move of big billions of dollars that were coming into this country.
I get it. You're being sarcastic with this question.
No. But do you remember there was a time it was being said, because there were conferences being held in Kigali, Kenya is losing out on this, this tourism that has to do with conferencing. Kigali is a wonderful destination for conferences. The capacity that Kenya has is much, much larger, just capacity, than that of Rwanda. So much as you may want to hold a conference, if you want a conference of a certain size, you are rather limited in East and Central Africa. It's just a simple fact. So I'm saying there are common narratives that people like. Essentially, they are common myths.
Yes.
Okay? But if you look at the reality, has Google moved its headquarters from Nairobi?
Or have you heard them saying, we are scouting, we're actually talking to Rwanda to move our headquarters?
Have you heard?
Has Microsoft done that?
Nations have decided they're going to move headquarters from Nairobi.
To Tanzania.
Right. So, the fact of the matter is there are many criteria that come into investment destinations. One is predictability of the political environment.
Yes.
Protection of property.
Yes.
Also stability of the fiscal environment.
Yes.
So our tax regime has also posed a problem.
Yes.
And then governance.
Actually,
because we've heard of investors, and I'm saying these go together. We've heard of investors who've tried to come into Kenya and have been unable to come into Kenya because they refuse to pay.
Yes.
And there's one example of the investment in KQ. Where the investor, I think it's the Emirates, it might be Qatar, wanted to come into Kenya, But the shenanigans around that investment were too much. They said, you guys, get your act together. We are going to Rwanda, which is a big loss. There are lots of companies. I mean, Kenya has been deindustrializing because so many countries pulled out over the last 10 years because of cost of living issues. But when you talk about the political uncertainty, it's not the last 2 weeks. I think it's been 6 to 8 weeks.
The last 10 years.
Yes, it is, exactly.
Okay,
They
it's the
look
last
at
10
and
years.
say,
So coming back to my point, so that you don't take over my point and make it yours. My point,
yes.
My conspiracy theory.
Oh yeah, that
right?
one.
Remember, that's where we are.
That's where we are. Conspiracy
theory here is
yes.
that to sanitize this handshake, you are going to ask us to shake hands. Are you not doing that now?
That one I can agree.
Very good.
It is how do we calm things down without losing face?
Yes.
That one I can agree.
How do we shake hands?
Yes.
And it doesn't appear like we called each other in the middle of the night and agreed, let's go in and marked cars to Harambee House and shake hands.
Yes.
Right?
That one I can agree.
Everybody is now telling them, shake hands, shake hands, shake hands.
Mm-hmm.
We're here. Mm-hmm. All right? Unfortunately, it's collateral to politicians. Some 1-2 lives is collateral. Unfortunately, some 1-2 people who are getting out of business because their business was torched and razed to the ground, collateral. Unfortunately. That's the sad bit.
Yeah, that one I agree.
Yeah. Tell us your story, Wanjiru.
I have a couple, and I'll go on social. I was very interested in this issue of the dirty money and the beneficial ownership because we've been activating for this for a long time. I was surprised when reading this story to realize that the primary law was passed in 2009 and that we should be having beneficial ownership information. I mean, we've been on this route since 2009.
Yes.
And of course, there's 2 provisions here. There's one strengthening the disclosure of the beneficial owners and also including the amount of money that has to be declared. And the question is, will that increase money laundering? So there's a balance there. We wait to hear, are we moving forward? Are we moving back? Because I understand in the States it's $10,000. Kenya wants to move it to, is it $15,000?
Yeah.
I imagine the US market is bigger. So, we wait to hear from that. So, my 2 stories, that was borrowed time, are on, there's a story here on the editorial page on alcohol, Stop the Alcohol March, talking about the latest Nakuru report shows that 48.6% of Kenyans aged 15 to 65 consume alcohol. This is the most productive age group, and steps must be taken to ensure that such a high number is not consumed by alcohol and drug abuse. The report shows that 19.4% consume at least one type of alcohol and goes into other issues. And then he talks about the report shows increased cases of police officers consuming high amounts of alcohol, which can be blamed on the nature of their job, tough economic times. Generally, the situation symbolizes despair and depression, and care must be taken. So this article by Dr. Getty is calling for really intervention into increased alcohol consumption. And I think we can agree, as Kenya becomes a middle-income country, we are carrying, our relationship with alcohol is not a friendly one. There's high cases of alcohol abuse. I think all our families are touched in one way or the other. And we really need to sit down and ask what's not working. Linked to that, very irresponsibly and very concerningly, in the Finance Act, the taxation on tax, the excise on tax or on alcohol was increased. Kind of talking about sin tax, but it misses the point. And I think Jim McPhee was on this show and he talked about that. He talked about the Senator alcohol. So we really need to look at how do we tax our alcohol? What's our relationship to alcohol? Are we moralizing alcohol? Are we learning how to drink alcohol as a social good? Or, because beyond the despair and the economic conditions, I think also the moralization doesn't help. And I think costing safe forms of alcohol away from young people and low-income groups is hazardous, driving people into hard drinks. So that's my first reflection.
Okay, second.
Second is on sex education. The debate is back, and again,
there's a new bill.
I don't know what it is because it's in the editorial, and they are saying that there's an outcry against the introduction of sex education. It doesn't go into what the background is. So I don't know where this is coming from, but this is a perennial conversation in Kenya about should sex education be taught in schools, who should teach it, and how are we handling our sex education. And of course,
what do you think, Wanjiru?
I used to be in pro-life, pro-family advocacy, as you know. And whereas I moved away from some of the hardline positions, because I was once a hardliner, yes, sex education should be taught. The first place kids need to learn about sex education is in the family. And again, I think we need to demoralize, get rid of the this moralizing of sexuality. And there are some very good programs that are available that don't moralize. Because the moment you moralize sexuality, you push it underground, you bring in so much baggage. I think morality is an individual's point of view. You should teach your children to be moral and religious people, but let sexuality be dealt with as an expression of the other aspects of our humanity. But we should pay attention. We should pay attention to parents. Sex ed in schools, yes, I think there is a need, but by who and how and what age and what content all needs to be discussed.
So we need basically to open up the conversation soberly. Yesterday there was a heated debate in Parliament when Kirinyaga woman Rep. Jane Maina introduced that motion in Parliament seeking to introduce health, wellness and sex education as a core subject in curriculum. Unafanya math, English, sex.
Yeah, so is that the way to go? Yes. So question, how do we want to teach it?
Ednah, let's get Jane Maina one of these days to come and let's hear from her. Okay, quickly. Ati, people, Okoh Mtata's case is in court. Challenging Finance Act.
Yes.
Then there was the order saying suspend it. Okay? First of all, suspend implementation of the Finance Act. Then the Attorney General appealed against the order to suspend the implementation of the Finance Act. Tomorrow, the Court of Appeal is going to give its verdict on that matter. Should we lift the suspension as the court case continues, or should we retain it as the court case continues? Higher. If the court says, no, lift it, should it begin at that point? Does the law become effective on the day of assent by the president, or does the law become effective on the day the court says? Because remember, when the president assented to it, it was gazetted.
Right.
So in all public records, there is that what has been suspended is the implementation. If you lift the suspension, are we going back, or do we start from that day? And that's the debate, right? What are you saying, Wanjiru?
In my limited experience, because I'm not a lawyer, we've in the public interest litigation cases that we brought to court, Mutaha Kangu, Dr. Mutaha Kangu, who's a professor in all manner, has been advocating for remedies. And he says the way you craft a case, because there's the issues you craft, that you're addressing and what you want the court to determine. He says lawyers need to pay attention to what he calls the remedies, where you also anticipate the outcome of your decision and you guide the court. So he says that depending on how you craft your petition, you can guide the court when giving the determination, not only to rule in your favor, but also that the implementation is in your favor. So I would say, based on that limited understanding, it depends on how those petitions were crafted.
Wow.
Yes, he did a whole fantastic paper on that, saying it's an area that needs to be paid attention by lawyers, so that they can guide not just the jurisprudence principle, but also the implementation.
Maybe you should go back to court, Wanjiru. We have been paying 16% on fuel anyway.
Yes.
And teachers have been deducted higher pay and the housing tax
in
this month's salary.
Right.
So suspended, not. Suspended. What does that mean?
Yes.
That's the story, right? That TSC employees have received their pay slips.
However, they've deducted.
Yeah. However, also, their pay was increased. Remember that whole issue with the Salaries and Remuneration Commission? That was the idea.
They are crucial.
SRC, ongeza mshahara haraka haraka, ongeza kata, twende mbele.
Wewe, Kenya, country called Kenya. Hey, the mafia state will always get you.
Time for the news.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. President William Ruto will from today be touring the coast region for the next 3 days to Monday next week. State House spokesperson Hussein Mohammed said the president will traverse 5 counties in the region including Lamu, Kilifi, Mombasa, Kwale and Tana River. Mohammed said the president will commission and inspect government projects in line with his bottom-up economic agenda. The head of state will also issue 552 million shillings worth of grants to common interest groups in the area, besides overseeing projects to boost the blue economy and fisheries sector in Okoh, Wema, Ukunda and Mombasa. He will further commission a fish landing site in Kilifi County and lead a rededication ceremony of KNS Shupavu, the first warship refitted locally in Mombasa.
During the tour, he will inaugurate, commission, and inspect different and several government projects that directly impact the ordinary Kenyan, aligning with the government's bottom-up economic transformation agenda. As part of the tour, President Ruto will focus on inspecting projects in the blue economy and fisheries sector, specifically in the following locations: in Mukowe, Lamu County, in Gao, Tana River County, Ukunda, Kwale County, and Mombasa County. The President will issue grants to common interest groups in the 4 counties, amounting to over 500 million shillings, beginning with Lamu on Thursday. You will recall that the president had previously issued grants worth 320 million shillings earlier this year, and of course later this year he will come back, God willing, to issue another round of grants totaling 621 million shillings.
And Africa must strategically invest in its workforce if it is to grow, says President William Ruto. President Ruto said the continent is presented with gifted human capital that can drive its transformation. He noted that Africa must fix itself in a lane that will see the exploitation of the skilled, educated and productive manpower, and that Africa must change its story.
For a very long time, our continent has been defined by others in the context of being a continent of problems, disease, poverty, conflict, ignorance. We are defining our continent ourselves afresh, that this is a continent of great potential. This is a continent of immense possibilities. Why do I say so? 60% of all renewable energy globally is in the African continent.
And Interior Principal Secretary Raymond Omolo has insisted that despite opposition chief Raila Odinga postponing the countrywide anti-government demonstrations, the state will not tolerate any form of violence should the riots be reinstated. Speaking at the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University of Science and Technology during a meeting with the National Government Administration officers from Siaya County, Omolo appealed to opposition leaders not to incite their followers to violence whenever they have a falling out with the ruling regime. The PS also emphasized that any demonstrations must be conducted within the confines of the law, further noting that persons who break the law under the guise of protesting will be dealt with accordingly. Now, Roads and Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen says the government is set to resume construction of the stalled bus rapid transit project in the next 2 months. Murkomen, who spoke after inspecting the Line 2 BRT corridor at Kasarani Terminal in Nairobi, said his ministry is in talks with the National Treasury in order to acquire funds for the completion of the project by December next year. The CS underscored the importance of the project to the President William Ruto-led administration, saying it would help open up the public transport sector within the Nairobi metropolitan. And the High Court has ordered the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority to pay one of its employees 1.5 million shillings as compensation for unlawful transfer from the head office in Nairobi to Mombasa. This is after Christine Wangi, an accountant at the authority, moved to court in December last year, challenging the decision by the then KEMSA CEO to transfer her from Nairobi to Mombasa Regional Depot after she raised a flag on a financial irregularity. And police in Eldoret have arrested a fourth suspect linked to last month's brutal killing of a 20-year-old student. The suspect, Benjamin Jenga, an Eldoret town service matatu operator, had fled to Nairobi after allegedly attacking and killing the slain Form 4 leaver Ahmed Mohamed Ismail. A police report indicates that the suspect committed the offence jointly with 3 others on June 2nd, 2023 in West Indies in the Tarbo sub-county, Uasin Gishu County. Jenga was arraigned before Eldoret High Court Judge Ruben Nyakunde but did not take plea after the police successfully applied to detain him for 7 days to conclude investigations. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
It's a few minutes after 7 o'clock and Thursday is looking like it's going to be a busy one. A little bit that's building up on Langata Road. It's all coming off of Magadi Road this morning, so let's watch out for that. We'll likely see it then touch in on Raila Odinga later, but let's talk about what we do see. We do see traffic on the Thika Superhighway coming in through to the Outer Ring Junction and then out towards the Pangani Underpass. That is what's doing the thing. And on Jogo Road as well, busy. Not too crazy though, if you want to be honest. And on the Northern Bypass, a little bit of it is just going to seep in through towards Kiambu Road on this side and then out towards the Thika Superhighway on the other. All right, still manageable at about 7 o'clock. We'll get into the traffic hour and we shocked it out. That will change in just half an hour. So if you haven't left, now might be a good time to do so. And you have already, then obviously you've reached your destination. Let's talk on Spice FM KE on Twitter. We want to keep things moving this Thursday.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
On the 27th day of the 7th month of 2023. Welcome to the second hour. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. The Situation Room on Spice FM, on KTN Home, on YouTube and on Facebook. We have a guest host today, Wanjiru Gikonyo. She's an advocate for good governance. She's also a member of the Nairobi Revenue Board.
Why are you going back there?
No, but you are.
You want
as
to get
far
me
as
into
government
trouble.
records are concerned, Wanjiru, you are a board member of the Nairobi Revenue Authority.
You want to get me into trouble. If I say we are not yet working, I'll be in trouble with the people of
Make sure
Nairobi.
that you work.
And if I say, I think for whatever reason, since gazettement, we have not yet been operationalized.
Okay.
And so if any money disappears during this period,
what would you
it is, that one do not ask me. When we hit the ground, we were given very stern directions.
Does money actually ever disappear, really?
It disappears from public coffers.
No,
I should have
people
completed
disappear the money.
Thank you.
like that. It doesn't walk away?
No. It must be activated by some kind of human intervention.
So if human intervention in Nairobi County between this period
takes place, not there.
Do not attach me to that money. Once we get those letters to Anze Kazi, from there we will show our face and we will be accountable. And we are looking forward and hoping it will happen soon.
Oh, very good. Very good. Colgate is asking you, Wanjiru, to help it because they are doing some good thing around the country. Some 30 communities are benefiting from 30 water wells. Colgate with some partners are sinking water wells to communities that really, really deserve and need water. Clean, safe drinking water. And what they're telling you to do, when you go buy your tube of favorite toothpaste next time, go to Naivas, buy Colgate, and that's it. Go with your Colgate home, use it. Okay? But some of that money that you use to purchase will then go into this kitty that is sinking the 30 water wells. 150,000 people benefiting from it.
Very important.
Good, no good.
Good, bad. Corporates should do more advocacy into water management as a whole. Because as they are doing this, there is money sitting there under the equalization fund that is supposed to do exactly that work. So, and that money would help more than 150
That's
homes.
true.
It will help large parts of the country.
As they do that through KEPSA, because they are also members of KEPSA and the other umbrella organizations, they are also doing their bit. Okay?
Yes.
As we all make noise as the family of birds, you're also the little hummingbird.
I like that.
That
But
is
remember
going
the
to the
hummingbird.
forest to put out the fire.
Remember Wangari Maathai did the advocacy. What my point is,
That was her bit.
foundations should do this social corporate responsibility humanitarian side.
Yes.
But they need to get involved in the governance side. They've
That's
left a lot to civil society. And what we are seeing is everyone with the means, associations, foundations, need to get into governance.
Very good point. Very good point. Yes, Wangari Maathai did that in national advocacy and with her Green Belt movement
And
distributed seedlings.
She did both.
Sindio?
Yes.
Good thing. Wanjiru, welcome. We'll have a guest who's joining us soon, and he's the Member of Parliament for Belgood constituency, the Honourable Nelson Koech. He's on his way. If you're thinking of buying pre-used vehicles, that's what you call them?
Pre-owned.
Okay.
Pre-owned, please.
You've got to be very sure.
Yes.
Pre-owned motor vehicle, go to?
Go to Automark. It is a subsidiary of CFAO Motors. It is actually the pre-owned subsidiary, and they're saying that there's certain things that you can avoid by virtue of the fact that you come to them. Think about the challenges people face when they're buying pre-owned vehicles. It's a lot of people have been conned when trying to buy them. You've been told that the mileage is, maybe a third of what it actually is. You've been told that this is a brand spanking new vehicle and it actually has been in an accident. So they're saying, how about you allow us do the selection process for you? And when we're showing you these vehicles, we show you the actual state of the car. You know the mileage, you know whether it's an accident vehicle, so you can still make the decision to go ahead and purchase one. We will make sure that the state of things as it is, from your transmission to your tires to your brakes to your everything about the vehicle, you can see. You make a decision based on what you see. So they're saying you can drive up, pay up, and switch up today, because nobody knows pre-owned vehicles like Automark.
Nice.
Okay, sawa. Siti, shall we wait for Nelson to come here so we can tell the proverb? Let's
Yes,
do
we
that.
can.
Let's do that.
That's a good suggestion.
Let's do that. In the meantime, today is Thursday, and you have you were to do binge watching of 2 episodes.
I told you
by
what
today.
happened.
What happened?
I got home and thought I would take a brief nap. Thereafter, engage in the activities that I had mentioned.
You need to.
This sounds like a disclaimer
I
story.
need you to establish those words that you've just
exactly.
spoken.
I know
Siti,
exactly.
you're the consummate storyteller.
I know exactly what Wanjiru's mind has gone to. The activities were movie watching.
I know.
Of course you do.
Siti. Let me not go.
Okay.
Let me not.
Then what happened?
No, I took
So
a
you
nap.
took a nap.
Yes.
And then you woke up this morning.
So,
End of activity. Activity locked out.
Can I put it this way? When you're too tired to enjoy some high drama TV, age is telling you something. Or can I put it this way? It's wisdom. Wisdom.
It's wisdom
Those
checking in.
activities are
This is
for you.
it. So now today,
On
third
weekdays.
episode of Faithless is coming out. The 4th episode, right?
Yes.
Is out on Showmax. Now at least you have 3 episodes to catch up.
I will watch at least one before I take a nap.
I beg try.
You will wake up in the morning, have no other activity planned, and use your best brain to watch highly entertaining TV. Umri. Maisha ngumu.
Don't be like City or be like City. At least purpose to watch Faithless on Showmax. And all the best to you if you actually get to watch, unlike City who try. This time, I'm sure by weekend, City will have watched. I know. Yes. You'll get a moment.
I will find a moment.
And when you find it,
Cancel
when you
meetings.
start, you will not stop.
Cancel your meeting.
I rarely have meetings at night, so I will.
I'm meaning bedtime meetings
No.
when you have energy.
Watch this thing during the day, Bona. This night
City's in denial.
this night thing. Live night.
It's a good thing to be in denial sometimes, surely.
Let night be
for sleeping.
So, yeah, these are the things.
Umri kiongea, when you get to a certain point in life, there are some things you concede.
You just leave.
Say, it's okay.
It's all right.
It's all right. Tuachie wengine.
Yes.
City, you had an interesting story you want to tell us from the paper.
I did, actually. The the thing about this country is we do not lack for interesting stories. The one that I found particularly interesting was this one of a rich Kenyan smuggling daughters to circumcisers. Okay, the KDHS, the health survey of 2022 shows its secret practice among wealthy people. Let me just read a line so that you can understand. Despite a drop in FGM rates in Kenya, a surprisingly large number of wealthy families are secretly taking their girls for the illegal cut. Analysis of the demographic survey shows. Of the 12,181 girls below 14 who had undergone FGM in 2022, so these numbers underwent FGM in 2022. When the Kenya Demographic Health Survey was compiled, 2,407 were from affluent families, those in the highest wealth quintile, yani kule juu maju, while 2,789 were from the poorest families. The report shows the rest were from the middle category. This is surprising because female genital mutilation is largely associated with poor Kenyans, who often drop the practice with better education and higher living standards. Now, why this particular story was of interest to me, because when I read on, it dealt in details about what the survey pointed out. But in my mind, it didn't deal with what I consider to be germane to this discussion. The stranglehold that our cultures hold on us, and that it goes beyond any education you may have or any wealth you may have accumulated. Because for some reason, there are certain practices that people believe are the determinants of who they are. Now, again, it transcends any education one may purport to have. It transcends any accumulation of wealth or any societal status somebody may have acquired. It transcends all of these things. Now, so long as the value proposition on these matters have to do with the cultural value that somebody believes to be important, then these practices will only go underground. They may be the health concerns and the detrimental health concerns that often led in death may reduce, but the practices will not go away. I'm saying this because when you consider this, just the concept of a rite of passage, how in many societies there is the understanding that somebody moves from one phase of life to the other. So long as that is what people consider to be the marker, this is the point at which somebody has transcended, has gone beyond, then unless there is a complete and utter shift, and usually those things have to do with an upheaval of not the cultural norm, but the societal norms, an upheaval completely. And such upheavals often are brought about by wars. A huge war when everything that you know doesn't happen, or a disease, something of such catastrophic proportions that everything that you held as sacrosanct has completely shifted. But in the absence of that, the option is that some of these practices will die naturally over time. But the problem is, if the practice is conducted in young women of a certain age, then it means when they grow older, they will also find significance. So they will carry on the practice with their children.
Yeah.
So where you want to prevent it is in the adolescent period of children where they are still amenable to changes and amenable to certain understandings, because they will grow up with that understanding. And when they're adults, they may give the appearance that they do not subscribe to it, but they do. I look at, for instance, the practice of witchcraft. With the advent of Christianity, it was assumed it had died. Far from it. Most people embrace both. When it suits your purposes, you subscribe to the Christian faith. When it suits your purposes, you subscribe to a witch doctor. You feel, God, let me just deal with this one here at this level of ours. We'll come to you later if things really get thick.
It meets a need at a very deep level where the law cannot reach.
Yeah.
Even if you do what the law cannot and will not. Yes.
Designed not to.
No, it can't.
It's not the function of the law. So it's about social policy, it's about culture and creating behavior change and the whys and the whos, which we don't pay attention to in many of the... We're very legal, very legalistic.
And this article left that important proportion of this discussion, because in the absence of that, you don't really get to the heart of
the analysis of it. But you see, the big thing is here that those that are considered wealthy, it comes with, you expect them to be highly exposed, maybe higher education levels, maybe.
And westernized.
And all. And they have access to this information knowing that FGM is bad, FGM is illegal, but they still...
They do not think
bad to who?
In whose eyes? They do not see it as bad. So it doesn't matter what you say. You see the discussion, the discussion around it, in my understanding, they get the premise wrong. And when you get it wrong, it doesn't matter what else you do with it. You can legislate it, you can do whatever you like with it, but those who wish to practice it will still continue. It does not matter what you say.
Very good.
Or do.
Very good. Our guest is in the studio. Ndu,
yes.
When are the World Athletics Championships taking place?
Next month in Budapest. Yes.
This man is already on his way to Budapest, as you can see.
Yes.
The Member of Parliament for Belgood constituency, the Honourable Nelson Koech, is here, ready for Budapest.
Absolutely.
Good morning.
Good morning. First, my apologies. I've actually literally run. My car broke down between the entrance of Haile Selassie and just before Nairobi West, and I've run all the way to Capital Center.
Really?
Whoa. Yes.
No, you should have come all the way here.
No, because of the show.
Time now. Unfortunately for time.
Yeah, my apologies.
Congratulations.
Impressive.
Thank you.
Congratulations. You've done well.
Okay.
For morning. And he's not even panting.
Yeah.
I have been.
You took a while. Karibu sana.
Asante.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Good to have you in the hot seat of the Situation Room again.
My pleasure, always.
Yeah.
I've actually missed you guys. So it's good that I'm here again.
Karibu.
Asante.
Wanjiru Gikonyo, you know her. She is our guest host today. She is an advocate for good governance. You know what that means?
I know.
Very good. And accountability. That is, in fact, even more important. City?
There are those who would call her a modern-day freedom fighter. Yes.
Thank you. I'll take that. Thank you.
Our proverbs for the whole of this week have been from the country of... It's pronounced Lesotho, but it's written Lesotho. Okay? Now, this proverb, Mheshimiwa, I'd really like your take on this one. I found it particularly interesting. When a ripe fruit sees an honest man, it drops.
It's an interesting one.
Yes, I cannot begin to tell you what it means, because I thought and I figured, why am I stressing myself? I'll throw it out, then let my colleagues figure it out. Yes.
What do you think? When a ripe fruit sees an honest man, it drops. Fruit.
Honest man.
Honest man. Honest man.
I don't know. I can't really figure
Truthful
it out.
Man.
To be honest, I have to think for a few minutes.
Take your time. Yeah. Wanjiru has some interpretation of it.
Well, it must. I think it's applicable in the Lesotho context.
Okay.
Because in the Kenyan context,
it won't drop.
No.
Under no circumstances.
Those are big lies. Those are big lies. Honesty in Kenya does not pay. Sorry to say.
Are there ripe fruits in Kenya?
Of course, they're ripe fruits.
Okay.
Ripe fruit would mean economic gains. After your labor, you benefit. Anything you're going to put labor in. And of course, our biggest quest is economic survival.
Yes.
Is social ascendance.
Yes.
And no, in Kenya, the big battle we are having is actually the opposite of that. That honest people, if you stay in the system, you're going to lose. And we've gotten to a point where it's the converse. That dishonesty does pay.
Dishonest people shake the tree.
Yes, the better you apply your knowledge to being as good a criminal as you can be, and you benefit. And sorry to say, it's being reinforced more and more each day.
Is that analysis really true?
Is that?
Analysis really true? I mean, does it capture? You see, when one talks about honesty, it's like you've ring-fenced it, and you've given it moral barriers within which this particular term must exist. And it can only exist there. See, honesty goes beyond morality. If I'm a thief and I know I'm a thief, I'm honest.
If I tell you the truth.
Yes, I am honest.
And the fruits that I get through my thievery are my right fruits.
Yes, I am honest. You see, what I'm saying here, these are dialectics, but what I'm saying here is that when you moralize a social construct, then you are likely to confuse issues. This is what I'm saying. Because the only way you get to understand the concept as you present it is in understanding why it is people choose the converse. There is this paradigm, and yet people determine to follow another. Now, the understanding of it, that is also a truth. When you get to it, then you see, so this is why this is this. Then the conversation becomes
Socrates, Muga.
Mwalimu, leo umenipita.
Philosophy.
Hiyo sijaelewa. I need to go to school to get that one.
We're still talking about fruits.
Yes, I know.
But this fruit has refused to drop.
This one.
That one is inscrutable.
Okay.
Mwalimu.
The penny will drop,
Yes.
at least, if not the fruits.
All I know, Mnyake, John Gidongo, former CBK deputy governor, people who stood up for integrity.
Yes.
What happened to them? And if you're a young person in university, you're saying, hey, hii mambo ya integrity, this honesty in financial dealings, that's a very high price to pay.
But there are very many honest people in this country, Wanjiru, such as yourself, and your fruit has dropped.
Which fruit? How do you know my fruit? Maybe I have other fruits. Let me put it this way.
That's it.
Thank you for that. There are social incentives. There are incentives in society that drive behavior. So the question is, what incentives in Kenyan society drive honest behavior? If you look at what happens on our roads, what happens in our political arena, what happens around our elections, the social incentives, the winners are not playing in the law, are not playing in justice. So maybe we need to either bring Lesotho here to us to explain this proverb, or we can send a mission to Lesotho to go and understand.
What we're going to do is we have some nice conversation with the Honorable Koech. Let's take a break to traffic, right? And then we come back at 28 minutes past 7. Kenya's biggest conversation this morning is hosting the Honorable Nelson Koech, the MP for Belgut constituency, and also the chairman of the Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations Committee of the National Assembly. Mheshimiwa is here because we'll be talking about the Belgut Marathon, which is seeking to help needy students in the Belgut Starehe schools, and also talking about everything else that's happening in the country. Bomayangu.go.ke. This is the government's affordable housing platform. If you want to participate in the affordable housing program, each of the 290 constituencies in the country is going to have an affordable housing project soon, including Belgut. Make sure the people of Belgut register onto bomayangu.go.ke for them to participate in this program. They can also do so by dialing star 832#.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
12 degrees and mostly cloudy in Nairobi, highs of 23. We'll see highs of 26 and a partly sunny Nakuru at 14. And it's 13 and sunny in Nyeri, highs of 21. And Eldoret will see highs of 23. It's currently cloudy at 14. 22 and sunny in Mombasa, 24 and cloudy in Malindi. It's cloudy at 19 in Kisumu and 17 and mostly cloudy in Kakamega. We'll see highs of 28 in Kampala and highs of 28 as well in Dar es Salaam. 9 degrees and mostly cloudy in Johannesburg with highs of 20, and we'll see highs of 30 in a mostly cloudy Lagos at 25. It's 19 and clear in Kinshasa. Through Thursday, it'll go to highs of 33 and lows of 19.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
All right, we're doing all right with it. Not so bad. Thika Superhighway, just thick as you get towards the Pangani underpass, and we're seeing some traffic build up on Kiambu Road. Nothing too worrisome, at least not for now. The northern bypass spill over towards Kiambu Road. Jogo Road is busy, getting onto Landis. It's a normal thing that we see. Gong Road is also busy. It's coming off of and then going on towards Naivasha Road and into Riara. Let's see what it opens up to be around James Gishuru and then over towards Waiaki Way. But again, for now, it looks all right. A little bit of traffic coming in from Cabanas, going towards North Airport Road and then towards the Eastern Bypass. Traffic is not doing that thing just yet, but we'll keep an eye on things. Outer Ring is starting to buzz up. Let's see what happens closer to 8. Let's talk on Spice FM, KE on Twitter.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
29 minutes to 8. The Honorable Nelson Koech, MP Belgood constituency and Chairman of the Defence, Intelligence and Foreign Relations Committee of the National Assembly. I don't think people of Belgood and even others understand the importance of that, you know. This is a Chairman of Defence, Intelligence and Foreign Relations Committee. When you're watching movies, CT, especially those American ones, and you see CIA directors, NSA directors and military bosses being summoned by a Senate Intelligence Committee, and they answer questions. They are put to the task and grilled, right?
The chair.
And the chair is a powerful person in the US Senate Intelligence Committee.
Observe where my fingers point.
Big one.
We just ran a small part of a marathon.
Yes.
A small part of a marathon.
The man in our country is this one, okay? He oversees the defense CS. He oversees the military generals. He oversees the director of the NIS. He oversees the foreign affairs minister. He oversees 4 members of the National Security Council, plus the National and the Ministry of East Africa Community. Right? If the president were to seek Parliament's authority to go to war, he would process that request. This is the man. He deals with the truth, facts only in his committee, because he can't afford to deal with any rumors and innuendo and such kind of things. Conspiracy theories. And that's why I want to ask the first question. Mheshimiwa Koech, was the president of Tanzania, Samia Suluhu Hassan, in this country recently? Or was she not? In whatever capacity. Truth be told.
First, I don't think a president of any state, for that matter, can be in the country without the knowledge of the nation. We have an extremely, what do you call it? Like quite an investigative journalism in this country. And I think it will have leaked out from the hotels to the people at the airports. And I don't know how she landed in the country. For me, that is a rumor.
So she was not
here. Leaked.
She was not here.
It leaked from the hotel. It was in the media. It was.
Where are the pictures? I've seen pictures of that are running around of some people in Mount Kenya Safari Club. I've not seen any pictures of Suluhu. Not even that. It's very easy from the radar to check what planes have come into the country. There has been none so far that has come from Tanzania. I have a friend, he's called Sirma. He's an enthusiast. You know him with planes. And I can tell you will have picked if there would have been a plane that came from.
Even a helicopter.
Even chartered?
Even a
chartered,
helicopter.
yeah.
All planes
all planes.
monitored.
Even let me tell you, a charter that brings a president of a country is well guarded. Yeah, so it's not a lot of force is deployed to make sure that it caters for a president who is visiting. So for me, that is a rumor, and I don't know where that rumor came from and to do what. I mean, let me ask you then, what was Suluhu coming to do in the country?
She had been invited by
who?
By the president of
To
Kenya.
do what?
To come and have a conversation with Raila because these things.
Which things?
And she had a conversation with Raila, and then now then the president has gone to Tanzania and they met yesterday.
That's a fallacy. To imagine that we can mediate on issues. I mean, Raila and William Ruto know each other. They know each other's phone number. He didn't need Suluhu for them to communicate whatsoever.
One would also argue that it didn't need Twitter for him to communicate either if they have each other's phone.
What's wrong with Twitter? Raila uses Twitter to communicate to his supporters to come out and demonstrate. It's the same. It's a tool of communication. Yeah. So I tweeted last night that I was going to be in this show, and I've seen many people following. It's means of communication. Look at how President Trump used to communicate. He used Twitter. It's a tool of communication. Yeah. With technology, I don't need to write a letter.
When you say it's a fallacy, you point to a nefarious side of these communication tools and the role of propaganda. Because that very discussion that Eric presented as a question arose from, again, information that came to our phones via the same social media tools that people use. Very effective when used positively, sometimes effective for those who want to use it for nefarious reasons, but again, as they say, there it is, and there we are.
Let me ask you, is there a crisis in this country?
As far as I'm concerned, there's none.
Yes. So why do we need mediation? There is this belief that people want to hype stories for benefit. If truly the problem that we have in this country is the prices of commodities, for instance, it's a solution that we can find within. It doesn't need all this hype of a mediation and people coming to talk to I don't know what leaders, I don't know for what point. We have leadership in this country. We have people with resource and knowledge to mediate on whatever issue situation that will have arisen. I always ask myself why there are, for instance, no Maandamanos today. Why yesterday there was peace with the lighting of candles from Azimio. It tells you that the instruments of terror are controlled from a particular quarter. And it needs a signal for the young people of this country to come out and bring down, the buildings, ban tires on roads, and whatever. But it takes also the same leaders to call their troops back and say, listen, I think we are getting into some sort of talk. You guys just...
Yeah, but Mheshimiwa, by the same token, as you say, the instruments of terror, the records, the post-mortem results show that 27 of those protesters were killed by police bullet. So
how do you ascertain that is a police bullet?
The post-mortem was done.
The post-mortem has nothing to do with ballistic.
Well, it was done within that sphere. The institution that works with the public pathologist has experience in this, and there's a way they do this. So they established the killings were by police bullets.
Bullets.
By bullets.
Bullets.
None of the protesters were armed. And so when you talk about the instruments of terror, they are in the arms of the state. The protests, yes, were mobilized. Yes, some of those protests went overboard because we have a clear constitutional guideline on how protests should be conducted. But the state has been very adversarial to its own citizens. And only because, my argument is because these are poor people, young people, not members of the family of any of the political leadership, and they're used as collateral damage by those calling the protests and by the police. So the brutality has been meted out by the state. On your docket, so what is your position when you deal with this?
Can I say something before Mheshimiwa answers? You know, the monopoly of violence, one could argue, is held by the state. But to state categorically that in Amandamano, it's only the police who have weapons, that is not true.
Who have bullets, who have the guns.
It is not true. You don't know. The number of people in this country who have training that is wrought within the disciplined forces are many. Many have retired there. There are people who know how to use guns, people who have guns. There are many. Yes, it is the police, again, who have the monopoly. But you cannot categorically say that it is only them who could have shot it. That would not be true.
Maybe to the extent of that, but what I am alluding to is there is a process that is used by institutions, the independent medical unit that specializes in investigating these kind of issues, and they check. And it is not just the postmortem, because the postmortem is part of that. They also check the activities building up to that. And so, when the state seeks to step away from reports that have been presented in court and held up in court in the past, reports that are even stand up at international level, if you're going to take it to that, because the process used to ascertain is credible, then the state is actually shying away from.
But stepping out how, Wanjiru? I don't understand.
What is the question to Mheshimiwa?
Yeah, yes. So to what extent is this committee looking out for the rights and protections of citizens and dealing with the excesses of police and police brutality in dealing with protesters?
Absolutely. Article 37 of the Constitution, of course, enumerates how demonstration and picketing can be done. You've seen how these demonstrations have turned out, have morphed from what it was. It was meant to be peaceful, of course, but and I think anyone who's been peaceful, there has not been any sort of confrontation. There was a video also that ran around on Facebook and Twitter of a young man, and I think it was around Kibera or maybe the expressway, not expressway, Southern Bypass. And there's this young man who walks between police officers, and at some point even the police are shocked, like, why is this guy so daring to walk past the police? And he just walked and no one touched him, because for police they panicked. It was unusual for someone to walk unarmed to the police, and that is exactly what has happened. There has not been a peaceful confrontation. There's not been a peaceful demonstration. What you've seen is gangs, and like Muga was saying, is about people, and the government has done so much, first of all, to make sure that people with illegal firearms are confiscated and do not participate in the demonstrations. There are people who have come out to create harm, kill some people. Actually, and that is why schools in Nairobi and Mombasa were closed, because there was intelligence that there were people who were going to come out with guns, shoot randomly at people and then go and hide in schools. Then, of course, the police will pursue them to schools, and then it becomes a crisis, an international crisis, because now you're dealing with children. So, and that is what was avoided. So there's a lot of intelligence of what is going on. And that is what I'm saying. There's not demonstration. There's no peaceful demonstration. What we have are a group of gangs that have come out to terrorize the citizens of this country. Article 37 also stops where my rights start. It cannot be your right that you want to demonstrate and deny people, for instance, to move. That is a right for me to get to work. There are people who don't have nothing to do with this demonstration. I don't care. But they want to operate. They want to earn an income. So people want to open their shops. People have been denied to do business. Students have been denied to go to school. Are you saying that is a right of any person to deny students of this country to go to school? Mombasa, for instance, when the rest of the schools are in class, Mombasa and Nairobi and Kisumu last week were not able to go to school. I find that to be very unfair. So there are people, like you rightly said, who are using this protest as a trade. So the people now become, like Mother Karua called in this show, human shield. That is exactly what they've made Kenyans to become.
Let
now,
me ask you then, Mheshimiwa.
When police defend the rights of others, people come out. But people don't come out to look at the lives of the police as well. Police have been killed. One police officer.
Which is unfortunate.
Which is very unfortunate. About 350 are hospitalized. Those are police officers. That tells you that there's a group that is out to hurt our police officers, to cause mayhem, and to injure the population of this country.
Which could be where you come in now. All right. I know there's another committee that oversights the police and how the National Police Service is operating. When it comes to intelligence, this is a matter that has even been taken to the National Security Council. There are elements that could be taking advantage of what's happening in the country so that then they can continue causing this chaos. When millions of children don't go to school for a day because of intelligence reports that indicate there could be unrest that affects children, you come in.
Yes.
What are you doing about that? What intelligence have you demanded, or reports have you demanded from the NIS and the other agencies, including the National Security Council, to tell us who's behind this and what they're doing about it?
I mentioned in a show before, of course, this is unofficial information. This is just what I picked from when I engaged with the National Intelligence Service. Number one, there was the damage that happened in Mlolongo and a section of Kitengela. There was intelligence that there were a group of young people who were going to be transported by a politician to go and cause chaos in Mlolongo and damage property. Of course, I'm sure you saw yesterday a lot of officers from Kitengela and Mlolongo police, DCI officers have been transferred because there was laxity, and I think some people are going to take responsibility for that. So there's a lot of intelligence that is going on. Of course, again, there was intelligence that there was a section of a team. There's former political leaders who are financing this for their own selfish interest. There's a money trail, and I did say when I appeared in a show last week somewhere else that there's been money trail, and it indicates that a senior politician in this country has been directly financing the Mungiki sector to also cause chaos. There are guns that are being leased out to individuals to use those guns to cause mayhem and violence. And there's that intelligence, and you've seen that the police are acting very fast to make sure that people who have more than who are licensed to carry at least one firearm are kept with one firearm. There are other people who probably have about 20 or 40 firearms in their own homes. You wonder what that is for. And these are not just guns. These are special.
So intelligence
military.
has names.
Of course.
These are the people. This is money trail. This is evidence.
Yes.
What are they supposed to do with it?
They're supposed to apprehend them. They're supposed to.
Why haven't they?
People have gone to court to take.
This powerful Kenyan ex-politician who is funding Mungiki. Is there any such case in court? I haven't heard of any such.
There's no case, but I'm sure you've seen in the recent past, people come out very boldly to say, my family is attacked. I don't know what is happening to.
But we've also had
the
that
children.
Those are legitimate legal gun holders.
Why will anyone have 40 guns, for heaven's sake?
All legal gun holders. And they're not the only ones. Members of parliament do.
Yeah.
And there is abuse of arms. So when you're talking about politicians.
There's an issue here between 2 guns and 40 guns.
Yeah.
You know that disparity.
Why will you want to have an armor in your house?
Why would you have 40 guns legitimately?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They're all legal.
What is the threat?
So they're all legal.
What is the threat?
It doesn't mean because there's demonstrations. So for me, I'm like, one, there's the political, there's a high stakes political game playing out where Kenyans have become fodder.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, it would be very unfortunate if a parliamentary committee then became partisan in that, because we wouldn't want politicians funding violence. They've been doing it for too long, and I think that requires an objective intervention as opposed to a political one. So whatever happened looked very politically nuanced because this first family, or whoever, this family that are unmentionable or won't be mentioned, have had these guns all along. So my point is back to this. What is the principle that the committee is monitoring? Because the committee is objective. The committee works for the people.
It's supposed
These
to be
are the
objective.
eyes of the people, the interests of the people, not of the executive. And there are assertions that this parliament has been swallowed life. Is it
line hook and sinker,
by the executive? So is this true that you've been swallowed by the executive, or will you protect the lives of those Kenyans who lost their lives due to police excess, due to in execution style? Because some let him answer. Let me just complete the question. Back to the IMLU report, a number of those and their witnesses who attest were executions of people, and we've even seen some of those testimonies coming out in the media. So whereas we recognize it's a very murky field and there is interference, there were police executions, there were police excesses. What is your committee going to do about that to make sure that never happens again?
I'll answer your question by asking a question. My committee is very objective, okay? We look for intelligence, we find out what exactly has happened. But my committee also has been agonizing to understand, first of all, why do we need to lose lives? Why this demonstration? What is the purpose of the demonstration that is happening? Do you even still know what the initial purpose was? I'm sure even you are lost now. You do not understand if it is food prices, if it is server. Initially there was a server. This is a political issue that we are handling. This demonstration is political. This is nothing about legitimacy. Let me tell you why it is not legitimate. For France, for instance, and many other countries, civilized, when demonstrations happen, they do not stop. They just happen, and it is people-driven. Our situation in Kenya is politically driven. That is why when a politician says, no, we don't have maandamano today, we'll do it next Wednesday. It does happen next Wednesday, and you'll have relative peace between that period and the next Wednesday. Relative calm. Yes. So it is politically driven. For what reason? I should ask you. Why, for instance, are we having maandamano? I don't understand anymore. If it is talks, Suluhu was coming into the country, the prices of commodities have come down. There's a bipartisan team, politically recognized and legally recognized. They should be handling the issues that they have. You still haven't answered
my question, because what you've done is you've gone to the politics of the demonstration,
my question
which I'm saying, that notwithstanding, there were police executions, there were police excesses. And to be fair, we saw some places in Mathare where the police were very humane and they held back. They were even being chased. And we also saw some comic moments. We saw some very tender moments where the police gave a protester some soda.
But Wanjiru,
there were excesses.
Let me remind him your question. Your question was your committee, right? Being answerable to the people and not to the executive. What's it doing to ensure that people's lives and
excesses by the police is not admissible anywhere? Personally, I suffered in last regime. Actually, at some point in Sambweni, I was just arrested for yawning in a polling station during the by-election. I was put in. By the time we came came in this second term, I had 8 cases in different courts in this country. Had in Nakuru, had in Bungoma when I was...
You're a troublemaker.
Yeah, there was no trouble. But because of the excesses of the police, I even brought a bill in Parliament, Criminal Procedure Code, that essentially was going to cure the arrest that used to be done on Friday, Kamata Friday, if you remember, because it didn't make sense for people to be detained so that you are punished in a Friday. So those excesses I do not accept. We've come as a country, as a democracy, this far that we should not allow excesses by the police. My point is then, at the same time, police are human beings. We need to protect them. You don't confront a police with a panga or a gun and you expect them to serve you with an ice cream. But it is impossible.
But you haven't answered the question about the excesses.
Allow me to ask this question. How then do you explain a situation like the one that we've read and heard about in Kisumu, where people are being dragged out of their houses?
That is wrong. That is wrong. And that is why, let me tell you, do you know why there was a creation of IPOA? IPOA was created because it was obvious there were going to be excesses by the police.
But you're an oversight committee. You've now shifted to IPOA.
I'm not shifting. I'm saying, we were on recess. We just came back here yesterday. We have a full tray of meetings. Some of them we will want to know from intelligence what really has been happening, and we get information as quick as possible. Some of them will be made public. In fact, Honorable Duale made statement to the effect that Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta financed this terror. it is important that we summon Honorable Duale to come and explain to Parliament what he meant by that. So slowly you will see things. I mean, and Duale, the Minister of Defense, is directly answerable to my committee. So my committee will be seeking answers from him on what he could be knowing, because I'm sure that information he got from the Director of Military Intelligence, which is with the Kenya Defense Forces.
Chair, I'll ask again, and I'll ask you as chair, because what I'm hearing is a lot of the high stakes politics around the demonstrations, which is for the ordinary Kenyan, the ordinary mother there is asking, is the life of an Azimio supporter protester valuable to this committee?
Valuable.
And what are you going to do?
You know, I lost
my question is, what are you going to do about the excesses to ensure it doesn't happen again to any protester, whether they are Azimio, KK, whichever party? Because all I'm hearing is
question enough.
Today in my constituency, I am burying someone who was killed by the police over the same excesses last week. Good. So it's not, don't talk about Azimio. Excesses are excesses anywhere. All I'm saying is that it is also important for the civilians to understand that you cannot confront a police officer with weapons and expect them to serve you ice cream. It is impossible.
Yes,
I do not.
Wanjiru, that's it.
You came running here. Okay, I know there's a lot of things going on in the country at the same time, and development still continues as well. Mheshimiwa, you came running here, and there's certain things that are happening in your constituency, in the next few days. Education, we talk about it being a crisis in this country as well as all the other things that you have to deal with, but you're running for a cause. Tell us a little bit about that.
Phew, thank you for saving me. Wanjiru.
You've run away from the answer, but it's okay.
Because of time, I'll come back to you. I have, in 2016, my predecessor had an idea that because of many students that drop out of school, we will have a school purposely going to cater for orphans and bright and needy students. So majorly they conceptualized it to have orphans at that time and needy students. So that was an idea that Honorable Keter is now deceased, came up with. And when I won in 2017, I took over. Now, there are two schools. My predecessors had fashioned it as Tare, I think, from a copy from what this Tare was doing. And we have a Tare boys and Tare girls. So when I came in, I decided to make it a little bit better. So there were no classrooms. It was just some 1 acre from either side with the boys and the girls. Expanded the land and started admitting. At that point, I think they were admitting 10 students in 2016. When I came in, I escalated the number to 20. So what we do is that we look in villages. By the way, this happens a lot. Even I have my constituency has a huge sections of multinational that is covered. So of course it's cosmopolitan. I have bright children, for instance, from the Luo Nyanza who excel. The other day had an A. She's going to do medicine. Who was in Moiti Girls. We've educated her through. Anyway, because Eric is signaling that I need to do a bit quick. This is what has happened. So progressively, we've moved from 20 students. Right now, Stare Girls, for instance, is admitting 450 students, all fully catered by CDF. So I pay bursary for the needy, 2020, which is 40 every year. But the numbers have increased. You find some of them can partially afford, but the other ones cannot. So we are paying for the orphans and those ones who cannot afford at all. The cost has been escalating and is becoming more expensive for me, and that is when I conceptualized this idea of having a marathon so that I can have corporates coming in to support. And I can tell you, up to this point, the marathon is going to happen next month on 6th, and the support that I'm getting from WhatsApp, from different people of goodwill who've been calling, is overwhelming. So that is going to go in supporting the number of students. And just to tell you, 6th of August. Where? The mean score, just for the record, so that people know, is that we had a mean score of 6.8 last year for Stare Girls and 6.5 for Stare Boys. So, I mean, I'm sending so many children to university. I'm so excited. And now I want to continue financing them. We want to build more classrooms. We want to build more dormitories and some of the teachers here.
Where is the marathon going to take place?
In my constituency, it's tranquil. I mean, you should visit.
So it's everywhere.
And distance?
No. We have, it's a 10K. AK told me that we start with 10K. I'm sure you can do that.
Yes.
Even you can do that.
Yeah.
So that 10K is going to start from a place called, actually next to Kabianga University. And then we will finish in Societe, next to Societe Girls.
Right.
That will be the 10K. I will personally be running the 10K.
Various sponsors, including our own Berur FM and 911 group as well. And we have a 911 officer here.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Latiff. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good to see you.
Yes,
yes.
you too.
Madam Gikonyo, good to see you. Yes, the advocate for good governance.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we are all advocating for this.
Yes.
How are you, Eric?
Carissa.
The man of belief from punching from Piro.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're taking place in the. Will you participate in the marathon yourself?
Yes, I'm participating personally.
He has to be there.
Yes, I have to be there because you see, as the TPSO, worldwide and Nairobi region.
What is TPSO?
Worldwide. What is DPSO?
Theft Prevention and Surveillance Officer. Yes, from 911. Yes. Because in 911 you believe in peace of mind. Yes. All you need to do is to run because we want to secure you. You have peace of mind. Yes, because you just ran the marathon 10 kilometers from Chemnyoga to Societe and you are secured. Yes. That is why I'm here.
On the 6th of August.
Yes, on
the how do we do registration?
It is simple. You just go to paper number which is 400 200.
400 200.
200 paper number that is 400 200. Account number is 400 175 11.
400 175 11. That's the account number.
Yes.
How much?
It is only 200. And if you don't want
a minimum
to run,
of 200.
Yes.
Minimum.
If you don't want to run,
it's a donation.
Just support
for somebody else.
Yes.
It's a donation platform.
Yes, just support.
Asante sana.
But thank you so much.
So thank you very much.
The last time I was here, Dirigenda Mossad, I was in Israel training for SWAT, which is superior weapons and tactics, and that is why I'm here. We are revolutionary security. Courtesy of 911. Don't remember you are buying a new car. We want to do tracking for your car.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Get in touch.
Yes. Please get in touch.
Thank you.
Karibuni Peregut for marathon.
Moshimua Nelson Koech, thank you very much. Yes, we'll be there on the 6th of August. We'll be running.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
We'll be running on the 6th of August. See all of us. Collectively, together.
Thank you very much.
Jointly and severally.
Thank you very much.
Asante sana.
Asante sana.
It's a minute past 8. Time for the news.
Crime.
Myself being the chairman of the security team in the area, we are actually working with the police and the other members of the team to ensure that there is security in this area. And I want to request the business community and even the community at large to share information with the security team. And I've been telling people in other fora that the security team alone cannot be able to reduce the cases of insecurity if the community does not work hand in hand with us.
On her part, Obuye OCPD Martha Ngetich said that every resident has a responsibility to strengthen security, so there is need to cooperate with police officers to confront those who break the law.
Sisi wote viongozi raia wa hapa, watu wote tushirikiane na polisi kudumisha hali ya usalama. Kila wakati tunaweka usalama, na mtu yeyote aonapo kitu chochote kibaya anatosha kushirikiana na sisi ili tudumishe usalama, kwani uhalifu uko kwa ndani yenu, si ndio? Mhalifu ni ndugu, dada, mtoto yako hapo kule na wewe. Kwa hivyo kila wakati tusaidiane.
Residents of Sango on the border between Bumula and Sirisia constituencies in Bungoma County have criticized Kenya Power for failing to supply them with electricity after Kenya Power employee in charge of the area passed on. The residents say the poor service has affected their businesses, further accusing Kenya Power of negligence.
Kifo yenye alikufa ilikuwa ya uchungu na tuliona mbaya sana, kwa sababu huyo kijana alikuanga mzuri, anatusaidia kama sisi wafanyabiashara wa hapa. Alikuwa anatuokolea kwa sababu saa hii hata hatukai sana sokoni, kwa sababu alikuwa anakimbia anatengeneza sidima ndio tunaendelea kuuza.
Na mara mingi hata yule jamaa aliyekufa huyo alikuwa mara nyingi yeye ndiye alikuwa anatusaidia mahali hapa. Alikuwa anapita kwa gari peke yake. Tukashindwa Kenya Power ina mtu mmoja ama ina watu.
They now want the DCI to investigate the matter while demanding that Kenya Power officials in the area be transferred.
Lakini tunaomba kwamba uchunguzi kamili ufanywe, Kenya Power na Kenya Police ama wale wanahusika wakuje kwa ground, waulize wale watu walikuweko, what happened, ndio wajue wanaenda kuhandle namna gani, because kampuni tofauti wanakuwa na machinery zao za kufanya kazi, hatuwezi waonyesha. Na yule ofisa anayehusika na hii stesheni ya hapa Malakisi, lakini yule ofisa tunaomba kama bado ako kwa ofisi, serikali ingilie kati, huyo jamaa atoke kwa ofisi kwa sababu mambo yake sio mzuri.
Anti-narcotics detectives at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport intercepted 4 consignments that were suspected to have concealed narcotic substances. According to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, the consignments were destined for Australia, Guinea Republic and the United States. They were intercepted following intelligence leads. In a court in Yatta constituency, Machakos County has slapped 2 men with a 10-year prison sentence after they were found guilty of murder. Kithimani Court Principal Magistrate Paul Mutanda Wichuli found Alphonse Kamwenga and Ronald Musimi guilty of killing Patrick Kaloki on March 4, 2021. In the 2-year-long case, 6 witnesses appeared before the court to testify against the two, proving that the prosecution that the suspects were guilty of manslaughter charges. The accused, in their defense, told the court that they assaulted the deceased after rescuing their mother from being raped. And the Sports, Culture and Heritage Cabinet Secretary Babu Namwamba says Kenya is committed to completing the renovation of its major stadia, whether or not Kenya wins the Pamoja bid to host the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
Now, I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's petty, that's
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
We are not having a traffic challenge today. Not quite sure what is not causing that. A little bit of traffic on the Thika Superhighway coming in then towards the Pangani underpass. But we're seeing it heavy on Kiambu Road this morning. The Northern Bypass has some movement, and we're also seeing stuff coming in from Outer Ring, Manyanja Road, Kangunda Road, Juja Road, and then into the city. We're also looking at traffic coming in on Langata Road. It's building up from Magadi Road and whatever is happening there all the way through to Raila Odinga Way and then towards Uhuru Highway. So a little bit of movement here and there, but traffic is not too crazy. Hopefully we can keep it just so. In the meantime, talk to us about what's going on where you are on Spice FM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start
It is indeed the only way. 8 minutes after 8. Good morning and welcome to the third hour of The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. We are talking about the country and what we need to do. Now, remember, The Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. Yes, it happens every year. Yes, around the month of October. Yes, the 20th edition of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon takes place on Sunday, the 29th of October at Uhuru Gardens. That is where the flagging off will be. And then, of course, you run along the Southern Bypass. The Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon is asking you, come, let us celebrate 20 years of running in Nairobi. 20th edition of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon, Sunday, 29th of October. Register with only 2,000 shillings by going to nairobimarathon.com. That's nairobimarathon.com. All you need is 2,000 shillings. Proceeds from this have been going to the Future Makers program by the Standard Chartered. A big one, isn't it? It is a big one. Have you registered as well to Boma Yangu? This is the government's affordable housing program. And how do you do that, Ndu?
All you do is you log on to www.bomayangu.go.ke and you get an opportunity to find out the different housing units that are available. There's a plan to have units across all constituencies in the country. So then what you do, you register, you locate the one that you're looking for, you pay the 200 shillings, and then you start to save. Once you get to 12.5% of the amount that your unit costs, you can actually move in. You keep paying, and you're getting towards paying to own. Not just paying rent, but paying to own.
That's a big thing.
Absolutely.
The only way you will begin to own this home is by first registering onto the Boma Yangu platform. And that's why we're telling you it's important that you register today onto the Boma Yangu platform. Those houses that are being built in the affordable housing program will have everything. They'll have shopping amenities. They'll have electricity connected, stima na maji connected. They'll also have Wi-Fi in coming days. And the person who's in charge of ensuring that we have Wi-Fi and internet connectivity across the country is our next guest. He's the Cabinet Secretary for Information, Communication and the Digital Economy, the Honorable Eliud Owalo. Good morning.
Morning to you.
Karibu sana to Kenya's biggest conversation again.
Thank you.
The last time you were here, we were talking about elections and the strategy of winning the election.
Yes.
Then we soon spoke about winning the election after you had won the election and the strategy of forming the new government. Now you're in government.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa.
Yes.
Karibu sana.
Thank you very much.
City has the day's proverb and he'll welcome you with the day's proverb.
Yes, our proverbs for the whole of this week are from the country of Lesotho. It's written Lesotho, but it's pronounced Lesotho. Why? I don't really know. Mheshimiwa, I will actually want you to tell me what you think about this proverb.
Yes.
When a ripe fruit sees an honest man, it drops.
When a ripe fruit sees an honest man,
it drops.
It drops. Waziri, what do you make of this proverb?
That means it is ready for consumption.
That's what it means.
Yes. Yes.
We've been waiting for you.
Oh, good.
You've helped us tremendously.
Yes.
Okay. So
yeah, when you see it, it's ready for consumption.
Yes. So it falls down without being prompted.
But why does it have to wait for an honest man?
So that the margin of risk is narrow as possible.
Hey,
we don't want to take chances with a dishonest person.
Yeah. You don't want to be eaten by a dishonest person.
The margin of risk.
Yeah, the margin of risk needs to be negligible.
You don't know what a dishonest person could do to you.
Yes.
To eat you the wrong way.
Yes.
Right. Waziri, we hosted your PS
yes.
Last week, and we were talking about the digital superhighway.
Yes.
And the programs that are in place and the plans.
Yes.
And we want to continue that conversation because those are big things.
Yeah.
We keep saying the Kenya Kwanza plan is like a feast. It has five key items.
Areas. Yes.
Agriculture, affordable housing,
yes.
MSMEs,
yes.
Health, universal health coverage,
yes.
and all of them supported by this one.
Yes,
the digital superhighway.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
You're the man in charge of this one.
Yes,
the digital superhighway.
Absolutely.
So, one of the things that we've seen recently, and I've got to start on that, is government services going online.
Yes,
and it's a big launch that was done just the other day
on 30th of
at the end of June.
Yes.
Where we said many more government services are going online.
Yes.
We even hosted a couple of years ago a president of a country whose 98% of services are all conducted online.
Yes.
Which country was this, Ndu?
Estonia.
Yes. The president of Estonia was here.
Yes.
And we've also hosted somebody else from Estonia. So going online, putting government services online, why is it important?
It is actually imperative. We cannot continue with business as usual. That's the direction the entire world is progressing to. We are today one global economy. We are one global digital economy. Almost everything is being undertaken online, and Kenya cannot be an exception. Let me put you just give you a bit of background so that we get the context right. In that Kenya Kwanza plan, as you have rightly put it, we have the key result areas of agriculture, small and medium enterprises, universal health coverage, housing, and then the digital superhighway as a standalone thematic area. And it was deemed so because ICT is not just an enabler to all the other key result areas, but it's also a critical success factor for us moving forward. Everything relies on technology. We need to re-engineer our manufacturing processes while leveraging on technology. We need to enhance our efficiency and effectiveness across all facets of the Kenyan economy. And this requires technological intervention. Now, when we talk about the digital superhighway, it's got various components. One, we at this point in time still have quite substantial proportions of the Kenyan economy not connected by internet. So one of our immediate concerns and objectives, which we have already embarked on, is to ensure that those parts of the country that hitherto did not have adequate internet connectivity get reliable, stable internet. And in this regard, we are rolling out 100,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable over the next 5 years. Our target as at June was 5,000. And we have surpassed that target, 5,000 kilometers. We have already surpassed that target. The next thing we are doing is to ensure that we connect, establish and operationalize a total of 25,000 free Wi-Fi hotspots spread evenly all over the country. And in this regard, we are, for a start, targeting the markets where our mothers and sisters are domiciled by way of itinerary trade. We want to not just reduce the cost of data, but ensure that where government can, we provide free internet connectivity to those involved in itinerary trade within the market so that they can leverage on technology for purposes of e-commerce. A fishmonger, for example, can host the product for the day, the fish for the day, on technological platform, and somebody in America can see what is available in the market that day. Okay? So we no longer need physical interface between the seller and the consumer of our product. That's the direction we are going. We are also connecting bus termini where our youth are predominantly domiciled, idling with no fixed abode, so that they can get into gainful economic activity. So that is another frontier we are pursuing. The next thing is the digital laboratories. We are going big on this. For a start, we are establishing the digital hubs in the TVET institutions and institutions of higher learning for purposes of digital skilling. Why is digital skilling imperative? It is imperative because as we roll out the infrastructure, there needs to commensurately, we must have a commensurate level of digital skilling to facilitate optimal uptake of the digital infrastructure that we are introducing in the marketplace. So we are starting with the TVET institutions of higher learning, but we are going a notch higher and also establishing digital laboratories in each and every ward in this country. And in this regard, we have got a target of 1,450 digital hubs right in the villages. How are we doing this? One, we have reached out by way of partnership to Parliament, so that we work with our members of Parliament by way of partnership, so that they give us the facilities that will be resident within their domain as far as this partnership is concerned. They'll give us the facilities in terms like a classroom, for example, where we are going to set up. We want Parliament, the members of Parliament, through the CDF, to also meet the cost of electricity, some of those recurrent expenditures. From us as government, national government, what we are doing is to provide the connectivity, provide the technical personnel, provide the devices, train the youth, and we are also simultaneously or correspondingly going a step further to link up the youth with global technological companies for purposes of digital jobs. So the end game in this regard is not just the digital skilling. The end game is digital jobs. Why are we doing this? We are doing this because we have got limited opportunities for white-collar jobs. The space where we have got enormous potential of empowering our youth by way of jobs is in the digital space.
Yeah.
In each ward, in each digital lab, for example, we can at one given go train and empower 300 youth. One digital laboratory in a given ward by way of digital jobs. On average, we have got 5 wards in a constituency, which means in each and every constituency, we can easily create a total of 1,500 jobs. We have had meetings with our members of parliament, and they are seeing the rationale that as opposed to running from one government office to another trying to get jobs for the youth in their constituencies, we can create those jobs for them right there in the village.
In the ward.
At the ward level. This will be a game changer for this country. And it will have a ripple effect. One, you will not have the traditional rural-urban migration at youth level for purposes in pursuit of jobs. The jobs will be right there in the village.
Indeed. Waziri, what you're saying is very exciting.
Yeah.
Just imagining the potential, seeing that each ward could essentially then have a digital footprint for young people to do work, for people in the industry, market industry, to then be able to trade better. Usually, the excitement about something like that then is met with the perennial issue of implementation. How excited are you about the implementation matrix for all of these things?
We have already embarked on implementation. Parliament, for a start, they have already embarked on the process of making the relevant or the requisite amendments to the CDF Act to enable them to utilize a proportion of that for purposes of meeting the recurrent expenditure, by, like, for example, meeting the cost of electricity for this. As we speak, on the free Wi-Fi hotspots, we had a target of doing 2 per county. We have surpassed that already. As we speak, we have already established a total of 421. Our target
free
for the
Wi-Fi.
first year, free Wi-Fi hotspots, we had a target of 2 per county. That gives us a threshold of 94.
What's the radius of a hotspot?
400 meters. 400 meters. So we are at 421. In terms of the digital hubs, we had a target of 290 within the first year. We are at 174. So progressively, we are making a lot of progress. Now, the slow start was informed by financial challenges. You remember we came into government midstream the financial year because the traditional government financial year starts in June. We came into government in October, but we have gotten funding now. By way of support from the World Bank to the tune of $500 million. We have already acquired that. Moving forward now, we should be able to roll out these programs much faster. Now, apart from partnership with the members of parliament, we have also engaged the Council of Governors through the ICT committee of the Council of Governors, because we want to move at the same pace at both levels of government, national government and county governments. If we are digitalizing within the national government, then we must also have corresponding digitalization within the county governments. We have reached out to them, we have had meetings with them, and they are going to provide us with the hitherto called polytechnics, that those facilities will also become digital laboratories.
Right.
On the free Wi-Fi hotspots, we have also agreed with the county governments that they'll help us in identifying suitable sites, the markets where we need to deploy. They will also provide security. They are also willing to come in and pay the cost of electricity, which has been a challenge to some of the markets. The cost of electricity for the purposes of the Wi-Fi hotspots. So what am I saying in short? That the digitalization agenda is not just a national government initiative. We are working in partnership with all stakeholders. If anything, we envisage that government should only be able to do a maximum of 48%. Okay?
At national
the
level.
private sector should be able to do the remaining component of 52%.
Okay.
A case, for an example, is the issue of the rollout of the fiber connectivity. As government, we are doing it as national government. But we are also partnered with certain parastatals which, based on their functional mandates, have already rolled out fiber. Kenya Pipeline is rolling out fiber. We have agreed with them on what they are supposed to roll out, the component and the timelines. Ketraco, Kenya Pipeline, Kenya Railways, Kenya Power. Okay? So we are doing it at different levels. In the private sector, we have got Safaricom, we have got Jamii Telecom, we have got Liquid Telecom. Again, we have had meetings with these people, these entities, and we have agreed on what components of the fiber they are rolling out and within the timelines. So we already have...
and it's on track.
And it is on track.
And
it's a work in progress. We have agreed with them on the timelines, the components, the quantities, and the timelines, the performance indicators, which we can be able to use to monitor and evaluate whether...
The big picture, like you've said, is to make sure that the entire country is digitally connected.
Oh, yes.
And like you have told the MPs, let's avoid this thing of you have to walk, get into a matatu, traverse the ward, go to the constituency headquarters to find the sub-county commissioner so that you can apply for an ID. You can do many of these things virtually.
Yes.
So we have now all these services coming onto eCitizen.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa, eCitizen was hacked this week.
Oh, yes. And to me, that is not strange, because cyber attack is predominant the world over. We cannot stop digitizing our records and digitalizing our services because we are risk averse. What we need to put in place is an elaborate risk mitigation framework, which we are ready for anyway. There was an attack. We are addressing that. We are not just coming up with instant remedial measures to address the current situation. We are ensuring that around this digitalization space, we will build an elaborate risk mitigation framework for purposes of sustainable digitalization.
What does this attack look like, this latest one?
This latest one, what they did is that they tried jamming the system by making more than ordinary requests into the system. It started by slowing down the system. And then we addressed it.
So they haven't been able to access our personal information?
No data has been accessed. No data has been lost. Now, we have been proactive in that space as well, Eric. What we did, because we had foreseen this, we have established and operationalized the Office of the Data Commissioner and anchored it on law, to ensure that they execute the mandate of both data privacy on one hand and data security on the other. Apart from the Office of the Data Commissioner, we have also constituted a multifaceted team within government whose mandate is to ensure that in a proactive manner they are constantly monitoring the trends globally in cybersecurity, picking lessons from there, discerning the best case practices as far as mitigation against cybersecurity is concerned, and putting in place an appropriate risk mitigation measure. It is an entity that is continuously scanning the operational environment to determine the trends of cyber insecurity and making sure that locally here within the country we have an appropriate and an elaborate risk mitigation measure.
I want to ask a question before my colleagues come in. Still on this one of the cyber attack on eCitizen.
Yes.
You are also in charge of information and communication. Communication is big.
Yes.
Now, what of course happens is if I wanted to renew my driving license, to apply for a good certificate of good conduct, to apply for a new business permit, or all those services that are available on eCitizen, I try once, I find it's not going through, I think it's my data connection, I'll try again. So many of us will keep trying to refresh the page and exacerbating the problem, which is what the hackers wanted. Would it have been prudent for the Ministry of Information to communicate to the public, everybody please don't access eCitizen until we tell you to?
Yes, and this is what we are doing this today, because we are actually, forget about the first, even last evening, we had a similar challenge, which our technical people are addressing today. Communication is good, but communication also has to be strategic. There's a difference between communication and strategic communication. Strategic communication gives you the desired results. We need to commensurately communicate to the public, tell them what has happened, what we are doing, and what the framework we are putting in place moving into the future. But what I can assure Kenyans is that there is no cause for alarm. We have got adequate capacity to address issues of cyber insecurity. And in this process also, we are learning. just like anybody else. We are benchmarking with best case practices globally as far as cyber insecurity is concerned. We have been in touch with India to see what they are doing in this space. We have been in touch with Israel. We are also enhancing our capacity within government. I don't want to say that we are perfect, because we should also be honest. We are enhancing our level of capacity within government to be able to mitigate against
maybe one small lesson you can pick from government and even from the private sector on this is crisis communication.
Yes.
Crisis communication has an escalation matrix and mechanism that says when a crisis occurs, at what point do you communicate? Do you wait 48 hours, 62 hours before you communicate, or do you communicate as soon as possible so that the affected people know what's happening and then they have confidence in the entity, that the entity is aware, the entity is handling it, the entity can manage our data?
That is one of the objectives or the outputs I wanted to achieve from this session today, to communicate to Kenyans and tell them that, yes, we have got a challenge on the eCitizen platform emanating from that attack, but we are addressing it. They should not panic. There is no cause for alarm. The system will be fully operational, if not optimally operational, in the course of today.
Yeah, so CS Owalo, aside from the hacking, which, it's very useful and important to know and to hear what's happening, what are the other challenges you anticipate in rolling out the program?
Yes.
And how have you, what mitigation plans have you laid out?
You see, anytime you are introducing a change program, there will always be some resistance to change. Yeah? Because there are people who are used to doing business the same way or operating the same way. There are also people who are benefiting from the status quo. Yeah? Manual processes has got corresponding high levels of revenue leakages, for example. There are people who benefit from those revenue leakages. And the moment you are trying to seal them, they are bound to fight back. So what we are trying to do is to ensure that, for one, we have an elaborate communication framework around this digitalization space. People need to see the attendant benefits from digitalization. If the benefits outweigh the risks, then people will, in their mind, embrace the digitalization agenda. People must see that digitalization is imperative for the benefit of the country. It should not be seen as a punitive measure that the government is putting in place for perhaps some ulterior, some motives which are, It is for the good of the country. Look, if we digitalize, one, we are going to enhance the level of efficiency and effectiveness in service delivery. If we digitalize, we'll bring in more Kenyans who hitherto have been operating informally into the tax bracket. Okay? If we do that, we will not need to increase, to review our fiscal policies to the disadvantage of the common mwananchi, because we can maintain the same level of tax levels, bring in more people into the tax bracket, and collect what? Collect more revenue. And if we go that route, we should be able to, locally here, generate adequate resources to finance not just the servicing of our external debt, but we also be able to have surplus for purposes of meeting our recurrent and development expenditure. Those are attendant benefits.
Let's take a break. Let's take a break, Wanjiru, and then we continue after this. It's 8:30. The Honorable Eliud Owalo is the Cabinet Secretary for Information, Communication and Digital Economy. He's here. He's our guest today. We are talking about the digital transformation agenda of the government. He's the man in charge of it. He's explaining to us what the ministry is doing. Mheshimiwa, I like the way you smile.
Yes.
You see that? Yes. And I'm sure all the years that you have enjoyed smiling, you always remember Colgate. Now, Colgate is saying, as we smile, let's make sure that other people can smile across the country.
Yes.
I've also seen you in humanitarian works across the country.
Yes.
So Colgate are saying, let's sink some 30 water wells that will benefit 150,000 people in various communities. They've worked with partners. They've identified these communities. And all they say is, next time you're sending people to go shopping, tell them, go to Naivas, buy Colgate. You can even tell them, go buy Colgate in bulk, just so that I can support this program that's going on. Right? So go to Naivas, buy Colgate. When you do that, part of that money, not the Colgate, part of the money goes into this program to benefit some 30 communities, sinking 30 water wells. More than 150,000 people will benefit.
I wish part of it could go to a digitalization fund.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Tutaongelesha Colgate. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Yolanda Mulwa, DJ Absolute. When the gang is together,
got the sugar, got the spice.
Yorada.
Yes.
I have missed you like hot hamburgers. Eh?
Like hot hamburgers.
You know, bad boys give more money than you can count.
Hey, bad boys give more money than you can count. If it's fun, it's funky, it's fresh, you're definitely going to catch it here. I don't know what you do every day from 11 a.m. to 3 o'clock, but if I were you, I'd tune in to
Sugar and Spice only on 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
So if you say it's on, then it's on.
Yeah. Cloudy conditions in Nairobi continue. Highs of 23 and lows of 12. And we'll see lows of 14 in a sunny Nakuru at 16. It's partly sunny at 13 in Nyeri. Highs of 21 and 23 will be high in a mostly sunny Eldoret at 16. The sun is up in Mombasa at 24 and up in Malindi at 26. 23 and sunny in Kisumu and 22 and sunny in Kakamega. Kampala is sunny at 19 and Dar es Salaam sunny at 25. 8 degrees and mostly sunny in Johannesburg, but cloudy at 25 in Lagos and sunny in Kinshasa at 18.
Sugar and spice and everything nice.
Spice up your life.
So we haven't had too much of a difficult time with traffic this morning. North Airport Road going towards Outer Ring at the junction is slow. The Thika Superhighway hasn't seen so much traffic today. Wonder what's going on, because traffic is not a menace this morning. It's around about 8:30 and we haven't seen traffic hour come into full blow. We're looking at Kiambu Road and a little bit of that as you get towards Muthaiga Square, but everything else seems to be moving along quite swiftly. We're not too much of an issue. We're going to keep an eye on things. Let us know as well what may pop off. Spice FM KE on Twitter.
Spice up your life.
25 minutes of a conversation with the Honorable Eliud Owalo, Cabinet Secretary for Information, Communication and Digital Economy, with our guest host Wanjiru Gikonyo and usual host Eric Latiff, CT Muga and Okoh. So Wanjiru, a couple of questions. CT, I'm sure, has been taking notes as the Waziri has been talking, and Ndu had prepared.
Right, yes. There is a concern that in the digital global expansion,
yes,
inequalities could be enhanced, and the measures you've brought out are great, about doing the labs, about trying to make sure it really penetrates.
Yes.
But there's still very low awareness.
Yes.
There's also the issue of the skills that are needed to
Yes.
get onto digital platforms.
Yes.
So what are the plans you have in terms of tapping, ensuring that the rollout
Yes.
is going to bring people on board and deal,
as opposed to excluding?
Yeah.
You see, our preoccupation is inclusivity in all facets. Financial inclusion and also digital inclusion. In the rollout of the Hustler Fund, for example, which is targeting those who are operating at the bottom of the economic pyramid, we have leveraged on technology to roll out that fund. And the purpose is to bring on board those Kenyans who didn't have access to finances for purposes of entrepreneurship and trade. So we are actually targeting inclusivity in that regard. We want to leverage in technology to facilitate equity and equitability in distribution of resources. When it comes to digital skilling, we are not just targeting the youth. We are also targeting members of the public. Because look, we are digitalizing government services. They are going to be on technological platform. There must be a commensurate level of digital skilling to facilitate optimal uptake of the digitalization program. If we are digitalizing but people don't know how to use the technology, then we are going to have a problem. So correspondingly, we have embarked on a major digital skilling program targeting the youth and targeting members of the public. We are also enhancing the level of digital skilling within government itself in line with our digital transformation agenda, so that we have got adequate digital skilling program. We have had the Ajira program. Now we have introduced the Jitume program. The Jitume program is where we are deploying devices devices. As we speak, we have about 23,000 devices which we are taking to institutions of TVET institutions and institutions of higher learning.
What are devices?
Like what you have in front of you.
Computers.
No, not the handset. I'll come to that.
Okay.
What you see, we have to train people. So we have to deploy training devices for purposes of digital skilling. Okay. It's a special aspect of computers which is geared towards the digital training. So we come and deploy in institutions of higher learning. We provide the training also for free. We are not actually supplying at cost. Government is meeting the entire cost where it can, but we are also getting free donations from the private sector. Like the 23,000 computers I'm talking about, we have gotten this by way of donation. Yeah, this is what we have been going around deploying in institutions, in the TVET institutions. Then we have, in partnership again with the private sector, we are doing training for free at no cost. And then correspondingly, we are creating jobs right there. Within 1 week of training, somebody should be able to start earning, this youth. We, through this program, the Jitume program, we are moving the youth away from job seekers to learners and instant earners. You earn as you learn.
Yeah.
In fact, it sounds too good to be true, but you may be shocked that when we launched the first Jitume Digital Laboratory at the Kabete National Polytechnic late last year, one of the boys who had just undergone that program for 2 months surprised us by saying that he's earning an equivalent of 200,000 Kenya shillings every month from digital jobs, right where he's seated.
In his house.
So through this program, the youth are able to learn digital skills. They are able to get digital jobs. They are able to earn in dollars, adequate resources to look after themselves, look after their younger siblings and their aging parents.
Okay.
Eventually, the direction we are going, or our target, is that once these youth acquire the skills, they should create further jobs by establishing their own digital laboratories within the villages so that they become entrepreneurs as opposed to job seekers.
Waziri, all of this, it's again very exciting. And there are people who are already doing this, isn't it?
Yes,
and as you've said, they are succeeding.
Yes.
But they are in the minority. Because the people who could actually benefit from it, the number of people who could, don't know. Which leads me then to how then you, as a ministry or as government, communicating this to the wider Kenyan population in terms of letting them know that these things are available, aside from it being a program on the website, for example. What awareness are you then getting into to make sure?
One, we are working with, in terms of communication, we are engaging all stakeholders in the public and the private sector and members of the public to ensure that we have got adequate level of sensitization so that people get to know that this program is available. And I use every forum as the cabinet secretary responsible for this function. Any forum I have, I talk about this agenda, the attendant benefits, and how we are going about it, and how we are carrying the public on board. You may have good plans, but if the implementation framework is not correct, then you run the risk of not carrying the people with you.
Yeah.
So one of the critical success factors in this digitalization agenda, one, is adequate levels of awareness creation and making sure that the stakeholder buy-in. We are engaging all stakeholders, and the approach we have taken is that our doors are open. We meet with different stakeholders, explain to them what our agenda is, how we want to go about it, and how they can also plug in. We want to carry everybody along, and we are going to do this up to the ground level. Now, you have talked about the people who are likely to benefit from this program being a minority. Let me tell you.
Who are benefiting currently are the minority.
And the risks. Yes. This program for the digital skilling program has the potential of creating 1 million jobs. As we speak, since October last year, when we came into government, we have created 109,000 jobs in the digital space. Correspondingly, we have trained a total of 336,000 youth in this digital space. And we are reaching out to the global technological companies. Everywhere I go, I was in India the other day, I was in Geneva. When we engage these global technological companies, we are telling them that we have got the capacity within Kenya resident in our youth. We want them to facilitate digital jobs to enable us fully exploit the skills, competencies, and capabilities that is resident within our youth in the digital space.
City.
When you talk about an environment in which e-commerce can thrive,
yes,
What would you say is the structure, the framework within which this very noble task is actually operationalized?
One, in terms of creating an enabling environment for e-commerce, one is the infrastructure. The infrastructure must be there. That's why we are doing the free Wi-Fi hotspots, for example. That's why we are training people so that they have adequate levels of technological skills. It must also be anchored on an enabling policy and regulatory framework, legal framework. And in this regard, one of the things we are putting in place is a national addressing system that will facilitate e-commerce. We are at a policy stage, which will eventually lead to a bill. We believe that if we come up with a bill and a policy and bill on the national addressing system, that will be one of the critical success factors in facilitating e-commerce. But for a start, the infrastructure has to be there. We are targeting the markets, for example, those operating at the bottom of the economic pyramid, so that we give them the basic, very basic infrastructure for free as government.
I often wonder why it's called the bottom of the economic I really wonder, because it's where everybody goes, it's where everybody seems to start. If you talk about, say, a marketplace, a typical marketplace, everyone goes to the market at some point or the other. But now with this sort of framework, how do you then ensure that, one, whoever the would-be client to whatever wares are sold in this market has A, visibility of the product, B, is able to pay for this thing with ease, C, is able to receive this
the goods.
I want to end to end.
I want to use the most basic example. Assuming I ordinarily buy fish from City Market, for example. I don't need to walk to City Market to know what is. The fish vendor there should be able to display the fish online. I should be able to see what fish she has for today. I should be able to place an order and pay for it using my phone from wherever I am. Subsequently, we should have a mechanism of delivering the fish to my doorstep. That's why I'm talking about a national addressing system. Put it on a border there, I pay for the transport, it is delivered at my doorstep. I don't need to have a physical interface with the person selling the fish.
True. Now, do we have any place where this idea is in pilot form, where it has been shown to work, where the proof of this particular concept can be visible?
It's already working. Let me tell you, we have launched free Wi-Fi hotspot at City Market. We have launched free Wi-Fi hotspot at Mudura Market. We have launched it at Kenyatta Market. We have done the same in Nyeri. We have done the same in Bondo. We have done the same in Ahero, in Kapsabet, several places in Elgeyo Marakwet. We have done the same in Bungoma, several places, and it is working. It is working. I think the deficiency we have is the communication, where it is already working. And this is something that we are addressing. It is already working. And we keep on monitoring the level of the activity levels. In fact, I'll shock you. When we launched the free Wi-Fi hotspot in Bondo, there are individuals who are on Zuku. They abandoned Zuku and migrated to the GOK free Wi-Fi hotspot. And these are prominent personalities, and they are still on that GOK platform, free Wi-Fi hotspot. As much as they are demonstrating, but they are also consuming the government services.
Prominent personalities in Bondo.
So, and we are monitoring. We don't need to chat about it. So we know it is working.
How do you track? That's fantastic. How do you track then over time? You talk about now you can see who's using
the level of economic activity.
Exactly. How do you track and say, based on this, this person in the market or this, shopkeeper is using and has used from end to end, because that would then essentially fuel your information to say, do we upscale? Do we maintain? How do you track?
We have got a team on the ground, an ICTA team, our ICT authority, and also CONSA team, who are constantly monitoring the level of our economic activity. So we know the baseline statistics, and we monitor the trends over time, and we match against the baseline, and we see whether there's an improvement or not. So this is a continuous process, because this digitalization exercise is only going to be useful if it leads to an improvement in the standards of living in the economy. How are we leveraging on technology for purposes of e-commerce, for example, for purposes of economic development? If technology is not giving us tangible benefits, then technology is not It's not necessary.
Yeah.
So we must have a mechanism and a framework for monitoring, evaluating, and reporting
of all of this.
On all of this. And we have got what is called a digital infrastructure index.
Okay.
Yeah? That you use to evaluate the impact of the digital infrastructure that you have put in place.
I must ask about schools.
Yeah.
Because you talk about this being at a national level.
Yes.
COVID showed us a thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a good experience.
Schools closed for 9 months.
Yeah.
There would have been an opportunity for learners to continue with their education.
Yes.
But obviously because of the breakage
Yes.
in the channel of communication, digital-wise, that couldn't happen.
Yes.
And here we're talking about essentially connecting the country digitally.
Yeah.
What kind of impact have you put in mind that would be realized for education? If schools, and we talk about the infrastructure already being laid, but then we also look at the end user infrastructure that for unfortunately a lot of these institutions does not exist. I'm talking about laptops or devices in schools or even in the community.
Yeah.
The wire can reach the community door,
Yes.
but you must connect it to something,
Oh,
right?
yes. Oh, yes.
What plans are in place for that to happen, number one, or at least on a national scale,
Yeah.
for the purchase of this end user infrastructure to be affordable?
Yeah.
Because that would be something I see you getting involved in as well. Otherwise, the first tranche of what you've done then almost becomes useless if at the end we don't have the device. We don't have the computer. We don't have the community laptop, whatever that may be.
You know, for the digital hubs that we are setting up in the villages, it's our responsibility as government, in partnership with the private sector, to provide the devices. And this is work in progress. We have already put in place a framework that would ensure that we deploy devices to all the 1,450 digital laboratories which I've talked about. Once we train these people, there's going to be a multiplier effect. Because, you know, they are getting trained, they are getting jobs, and they are getting money. So they'll end up setting also their digital laboratories in the environs of those localities, and there'll be a multiplier effect or a spiral effect as far as the digital entrepreneurship is concerned. So we are providing the devices. But there's one fundamental question that needs to be asked. You see, we have embarked on this massive digitalization program. When we came into government, for purposes of clarity, we only had 350 government services aboard the eCitizen platform. As we speak today, we have got 5,200 services already on the eCitizen platform, and we have also managed to identify a possible 9,500 services that can possibly be digitalized. And our proposition is that by the end of the year, about 9,500 government services will be fully onboarded on the eCitizen platform. So the question that we need to ask is, actually there are two questions. One, do we have the requisite level of smart enabled phones in the hands of the public to facilitate consumption of the digital services? As we speak now, there's a gap in the market. So proactively, as government, we have again reached out by way of partnership to the private sector. Actually, we have reached out to the telecommunication companies. They have formed a consortium. As we speak, there is already, for a start, local assembly of smart enabled phones which will be rolled out in the Kenyan market in August at a unit cost of about $40 based on feasibility studies that have been undertaken. That will be a major intervention in the market so that we have got a critical mass of smart enabled phones in the hands of the Kenyan public. So you can see we are being proactive because we have already detected that there's likely to be a gap as far as the device, the handset is concerned. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to create a situation where once we digitalize, then Kenyans do not need to physically visit government offices, which means they need to have the device, affordable device, smart enabled device in their hands. But two, the next issue is, question we need to ask, if we have got the government services technologically on the virtual platform and we have the devices in the hands of the people, do we still need to ask Kenyans to physically visit government offices to consume government services? And the answer is no. And that is why, again, we are saying that as government, deliberately and consciously, we are going to pursue a digital identity for all Kenyans. Digital identity.
What does that mean?
That there has to be a technological mechanism or a virtual mechanism through which the government can actually confirm that you are Eric Latiff, as opposed to asking you for a physical identity card. And you don't need, as Eric Latiff, to visit a government office to consume a government service. That's why we are calling it Gavam Kononi. You have the handset, the services are available online, consume government services from the comfort of wherever you are.
And the government on the other end can authenticate that
can
this
authenticate
is Eric
using
Latiff
your
who is
bios.
seeking the service.
That you are actually the person you claim to be. Now, when I talk about a digital identity, there has been this perpetual misconception that we want to
You're introducing
the
Huduma
Huduma number.
Yes.
And I keep telling Kenyans that we are not preoccupied with the Huduma number. You can call it what you want to call it, but we have to analyze this issue from a conceptual perspective. That it does not make sense if a service is available on technological platform, if you have a smart-enabled phone, for government to ask you to physically visit the office. So we are basically making work easier for members of the public to consume government services from wherever they are. And let me tell you the rationale. For example, today, in that space of passports, those Kenyans who are resident overseas, there are some cost components of the passport issuance mechanism which necessitate that they physically visit Kenya. We don't need that. Kenyans resident abroad there should be able to apply for and get a passport from there and even pay for it on the technological platform.
And a new booklet is delivered to them.
There's also been this misconception, for example, I want to give you another example, that if you are in America or if you are in Britain, then you are well off, doing much better than Kenyans here. It is not the case. Those guys are struggling just the same way we are struggling here. So if we are making the Hustler Fund available for Kenyans involved in trade here, any young Kenyan who has gone through education in the US and wants to venture into business should also equally be able to apply for the Hustler Fund from America, Britain, or anywhere else for that matter. That is what technology should be able to do. And that's the direction we are going. So in a nutshell, what
how
I'm saying...
is this going to be done? Because if we talk about a digital signature, and it's not the same as a Huduma card.
No.
The Huduma card that's
you are a step ahead, Eric. I'm talking about
digital identity.
Digital identity.
Right.
What I'm saying is that we had that Huduma thing. That Huduma thing primarily was meant to come up with a virtual population database. An electronic population database. That is what it was intended to achieve. It may have been a good idea, but the implementation framework, if you ask me, was wrong. I'll tell you that as a change agent. Whenever you want to introduce change, make sure that you explain to people why that change is necessary, how that change is going to affect them, what their role is in that change program, and the end result of that change program. If they see that the benefits outweigh the risk, they will on board. Okay? They will embrace the idea and move along with you. The problem or the challenge that the Huduma number faced was, one, it was introduced at the wrong time, too close to election time. So people became suspicious of it. People thought perhaps it was linked towards to the election program. So timing was wrong. Two, there was inadequate communication around it. That's why it failed, if you ask me. So what we are doing as we speak is to ensure that we have an elaborate communication framework about the digital identity. It has happened elsewhere. It has happened in Estonia, Belgium, India, Pakistan. Kenya cannot be an exception. People should be able to consume government services virtually. But another thing which is very fundamental, we are not going to coerce anybody to have a digital identity. No, it should be voluntary. What we are going to say is that, well, look, all government services are available on technological platform. Okay? You have your physical ID there. The choice is yours. If you want to physically visit a government office to be attended to, go ahead and do it. But we are giving you this other option of consuming the government service from the comfort of wherever you are.
Which is more efficient.
At no extra cost. We are just asking you to give us your biodata, and we are also assuring you that that data is going to be private and secure through the mitigation framework that we have put in place through the Office of the Data Commissioner. So the choice is yours. That's what they did in India. They did not force people to take digital identity. People onboarded because they saw the benefits outweighed the risk. And that's what we are going to do.
This sounds great, sounds exciting. Will the digital identity link to the elections? Because this became an issue in terms of the verification around elections. And then what will you do with performance? Once everyone's on the platform, these services are a bit maybe too fragmented, but also then there's the performance, which is a software issue. How are
performance in a government?
Yes, because there's the digital one way, but then there's the actual doing, the back end.
Yes.
And if that doesn't work as well, then you still have lags in the system. So I think the election.
I think you mean the execution of the implementation of the digital agenda.
Of actually the delivery of the service.
Yeah, the delivery of the service.
Yes, yeah.
You see, the purpose of digitalization is to enhance efficiency and what? And effectiveness. Okay? So, one, if a service was hitherto being consumed or being given to the members of the public within 7 days through the digitalization, we should be able to deliver it within hours. Yeah? And government, those in government should be prepared for that change program. That we must facilitate efficiency and effectiveness in what? In service delivery. And anybody in government should be able to embrace the digitalization agenda. Either you align or you ship out. There are no two ways about it. That's the direction we are going. And we have got commitment from the highest echelons of government, exhibited by none other than the president, that the route we are going is digitalization.
And the elections, does it link up?
Which elections? We are not even thinking of.
Can we use that
the
to
digital
identify?
identity. Will I then be able to register through?
Oh yes. So it's going to be a multifaceted.
So it will be linked to the election.
It will also be linked. That election is just one of the processes or programs.
It's a government service. Waziri, thank you very much for joining us today. Come again soon.
I'll come again soon, but before I go, I want Kenyans to start preparing for a different country. We are going to run a paperless government. It's not going to be business as usual.
How far are we from Canaan?
Very close. Assuming there are no crocodiles, all factors being held constant.
Are we at the banks of River Jordan?
Yes, we are at the banks. And assuming there are no crocodiles, we'll get to that.
And even if there are, you'll give us
we are going to run a paperless government. We are going to have digital jobs. We are going to generate our own revenue locally. We will be able to service our servicing of our jet. We want to leverage on technology to position Kenya as the ICT hub of Africa.
Eliud Owalo is the Cabinet Secretary for Information, Communication and the Digital Economy. Thank you very much for joining us, Waziri.
Thank you.
Keep it here for more conversations. 9 a.m.
It was my pleasure.
Opposition leader Raila Odinga has said that he will not hold talks with President William Ruto without a third-party mediator after months of anti-government protest. Since Odinga urged Kenyans to take to the streets in March, his Azimio Alliance has held 9 days of protest against the government, with the demonstration sometimes spiraling into looting and deadly clashes with police. The unrest has sparked alarm among Kenyans and the international community, which has urged the two sides to negotiate an end to the crisis. Ruto has never publicly discussed the possibility of a third-party mediation. Odinga was speaking to AFP. And Migori Governor Ochilo Ayako has called for justice over the killing and injuring of unarmed protesters by police during the anti-government protest. Ochilo, who led the county staff for an evening memorial vigil for the protest victims, said those killed by police and those injured must be served justice by the government. Ochilo accused police of injuring and killing innocent people who were out to express their anger because of the high cost of living in the country. The governor said it was unfortunate that the police killed people who are taking part in a demonstration provided for in the Kenyan Constitution. The Migori governor, who was flanked by other senior county and junior officers, said the police must not use excessive force to control the protesters who were doing a peaceful demonstration. During the 3-day anti-government protest last week, 1 person was killed and 13 injured by the police in Migori County. Meanwhile, anti-riot police Wednesday night dispersed a group that converged in Makadara, Nairobi, for a vigil for victims who were shot and killed or injured during a past anti-government protest. The group had converged on the roadside in the estate at about 8 p.m. and lit candles when anti-riot police arrived. The officers are declared the vigil illegal before lobbing tear gas canisters at the group and dispersing them. Police argued they had not been notified about the event at the place, hence the move to disperse the group. Nairobi Police Boss Adamson Bungei said they were not aware of the meeting at the site and feared for chaos, hence the move. And former Mkuruini MP Kabando says that it is good for President William Ruto to invite Azimio leader Raila Odinga for talks publicly. Speaking Wednesday, Kabando said any secret talks between the two leaders would be similar to the handshake between Raila and retired President Uhuru Kenyatta. He noted that while Raila is the leader of the protest, the people are the owners of the dialogue that has been widely called for. The former MP insisted that Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu-led talks collapsed because they were privately planned. And a court in Yatta constituency, Machakos County, has slapped 2 men with 10-year prison sentence after they were found guilty of murder. Kathimani Court Principal Magistrate Paul Matanda Weshuli found Alphonse Kamwenga and Ronald Musime guilty of killing Patrick Kaloki on March 4th, 2021. In the 2-year-long case, 6 witnesses appeared before the court to testify against the two, proving to the prosecution that the suspects were guilty of manslaughter charges. The accused in their defense told the court that they assaulted the deceased after rescuing their mother from being raped. And 9 pupils from Keteng Primary School in Nandi Hills were hospitalized after falling off a tree they were picking fruits from within their school compound. It is said one of the branches which the pupils had stepped on broke, sending them down where other pupils were under the tree were also injured. Nandi Hills County Hospital Medical Superintendent Richard Gikonyo confirmed the incident, saying that the condition of the kids is well and they have responded to medication. And the East Africa community has allocated 355 million shillings for completion of the Lake Victoria Basin Commission headquarters in Kisumu. LVBC Executive Secretary Masinde Bwire said the allocation contributed by EAC member states will see the agency, which is mandated to coordinate sustainable development and management of Lake Victoria Basin, move to the new building in February 2025. Speaking after handing over the site to phase 2 of the project, Bwire said the contractor China Jiangxi International Kenya Limited has up to 8 weeks to complete the project. He said LVBC has partnered with the State Department of Public Works to ensure that the project is completed on time within the set budget. And soldiers have claimed to have overthrown Niger's government following an apparent coup in the West African nation Wednesday when members of the Presidential Guard detained President Mohamed Bazoum. Members of the elite guard sealed off access to the president's residence and offices in the capital Niamey, and after talks broke down, refused to release him. This is according to a presidential source. Now, the soldiers said all institutions in the country would be suspended, borders were closed, and a curfew imposed until further notice from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
If you go out of this country and come back the same person, then you have a problem. Buy land, 1 million. Put it there for 5 years. What's the purpose?
It'll have increased in value.
No, that's the thing. That's darkness. You know, that's an eclipse. You don't do that.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person or that all hustlers are poor. I've seen that conversation.
Tell us, who is a hustler?
Who's a hustler? Hustler is a person who is making a living through hard work.
Corruption in Kenya is a political accusation. The people who are actually corrupt are not pointed fingers at.
Kenya is not free. Kenya imeshikwa na mateka. It's under siege.
Have you seen that lodge on Nyeri Road? Very high fence. You can't even
Windows
sleep inside.
up near the ceiling.
Yes. And if you walk there at midnight, you see bats the size of cows.
And when it rains, it doesn't rain on that building.
Yes.
When you're at All Saints and it's raining, it doesn't rain on that building.
The things people will believe.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Has not been an issue this morning, but we're still taking a look at what it might open up to be later. Into the CBD, there's movement, and it's busy but manageable. Nothing major coming off Thika Superhighway, so we can do this. Getting towards 9:30 is probably when we will say for sure traffic has not been too bad today, and I guess you can all testify to that. All right, talk to us still. Spice FM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way.
Purchasing a pre-owned motor vehicle, there's only one thing that you should think of.
Automark by CFAO Motors. They're the pre-owned subsidiary of what used to be Toyotsu. And so you're asking yourself, so, well, look, this is the so. Previously, there was a problem. And because they've come in, the problem no longer exists if you are serious about buying a pre-owned vehicle. That people would cheat you about the mileage on the vehicle. They would cheat you about whether it was an accident vehicle or not, or whether all the spare parts in the vehicle then were doing what they needed to do. Well, Automark has come in and said, look, we can sort out this market for you. All you need to do is come to us. You will then be able to decide which vehicle you'll pick. It is pre-owned. We will tell you the truth about the mileage. We will tell you the truth about the condition of the vehicle, and we'll give you a price that is fair towards what you're buying. Really depends on what you are looking for. But they are in the business of pre-owned vehicles, and you need to drive up, switch up, and then pay, and then leave with the vehicle that you are most comfortable with all your facts in check. Popper Road, here, August 4th to 5th, there's an exhibition. Go on down and find out.
Upper to South Z.
Yes.
Just here. Okay. Star 832 hash. Star 832 hash. Wanjiru, what does that number give you? Star 832 hash. It opens a world of possibilities and opportunities for you. With dialing star 832 hash, you basically are able to register into the Bomayangu program, which is the platform for affordable housing. Okay? So you do star 832 hash, tell everybody that you come across. The only way we are going to start benefiting from these affordable housing houses is with that. Because we can be complaining about it, houses are coming up. See all these projects. Abu, scroll up. See these ones. These ones are done. In Athi River, in Ruiru, in Bondeni, in Starehe, Mtwapa, Rongai, next to Pangani police station. These are the ones that they have uploaded here, but there are even many more that are ongoing. For example, we know where, in which county that is?
Homa Bay.
Homa Bay, it's not here.
Furnished like that.
We know, this is...
That's the show house.
No, just asking.
It's a show house.
Yeah, you can furnish it like that.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know?
You can So to get your way into owning any of the government's affordable housing projects, you register first on the Bomayangu platform. That's star 832 hash. Or you can go to the website, bomayangu.go.ke, go follow the prompts, register, start saving. When you get to about 10% then of the value of the house, then now you get into ownership. And ownership can be rent to own over a long period of time. We may talk about all the other things. These things are happening. Let's get in there so we can make them work better. Star 832 hash, bomayangu.go.ke. Anne Ireri is the executive director of the Federation of Women Lawyers in Kenya.
Yes.
Of Women Lawyers of Kenya. It's in Kenya.
In Kenya.
The Federation of Women Lawyers in Kenya, FIDA. You're also in ILOG, and we're asking ourselves, what is she in ILOG? She's the chair of ILOG.
Yes.
What is ILOG?
So ILOG is a premier domestic observation platform in the country, comprising of almost 20 civil society organizations representing the faith-based sector, the democracy sector, and other interest groups who collectively have come together to make sure that we play a part as citizens in monitoring our elections. And you also want that ownership and leadership by the citizens themselves in processes as important as elections.
So do you only monitor the election day, the election exercise?
Not at all. We work within the cyclic nature of elections. And we know elections in this country are every 5 years. And so there are certain milestones as a country we must achieve within the period. So we try to make sure that elections are not the election day. There's so much work that has to go in before. Actually, the election day is just a culmination of everything. So as citizens, we also need to be aware of what's happening within the cyclic events of an election, but also participate. And participation is in various forms. So that's what we try to seek to undertake as ILOG.
Well, karibu sana once again to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Asante.
City has the day's proverb.
I do.
These week's proverbs are from the country of Lesotho.
Written Lesotho, pronounced Lesotho. Why, I have absolutely no idea, but there it is. A monarchy. You know, is there such a term as a democratic monarchy?
Why not?
I mean, it is a democratic monarchy.
Not possible.
It is possible because
it's the opposite of an absolute monarchy.
Yes, because democracy by its very nature is aspirational. It's
assumed.
Yes, there's never a point when you can say we have attained it. You're always seeking to improve on it and to gain on it.
But you can't elect a monarchy. And the foundational tenant.
We're back to philosophy here, aren't we?
No. I thought it's
an election.
Is a government by the people.
Yes. The head of government of a country is elected. The head of state is the monarch who is not elected. So is that a democracy or is it not?
Like in the UK?
Yeah. Or like in
Lesotho. No, it's not even a constitutional democracy.
Like in Lesotho. They elect their leaders, they elect their prime minister, but the king ascends to the throne.
Yes, what are his powers? I guess we have a
head of state,
lawyer here.
Head of government.
Head of government is elected. So is that a democracy or is it not?
And if you have a head of state and head of government who is the same person, is that a democracy or is it a dictatorship?
Right.
Like in Kenya.
And if you want to ask this question, that's why I said this very topic and the very concept of democracy, it's aspirational.
Yes.
People speak about it as though the moment you say it's a democracy, it's a given and you understand. It's always a work in progress. It never stops being a work in progress.
And a kind of continuum in terms of the extent of which powers rule.
Constituent continuum is also the proverb.
Today, what are you? Hey, this is what happens when you have like 8 hours of sleep.
What's the actual proverb from Lesotho?
All the neurons are firing at once.
Constituent continuum.
Wow.
Democracy.
Well, in this instance, and we're talking about this particular instance, okay? When a ripe fruit sees an honest man, it drops. That's the proverb.
And when a ripe fruit sees an honest man, it drops. Drops what? It drops down.
Itself.
It drops itself.
Eric, you started this thing early in the morning. We're talking about the fruit.
He was on the money at 6 a.m.
Yes, we're talking about the fruit.
The fruit.
The fruit itself drops.
The fruit as in mango, okay? As in grapes.
It gets shocked and it falls.
As in avocado.
We're still talking about fruit.
And this question we asked.
Yes.
This avocado, is it a vegetable or is it a fruit?
Interesting. I think it's a fruit.
It's an herb.
I was told superfood.
It's a superfood.
It's a superfood. Yeah, it can be both actually.
So
it's like ngwashe.
Yes.
You can't be wrong with that answer. It's a superfood.
No.
Ngwashe is not a superfood.
It is a superfood.
It's a superfood.
But it's not a fruit.
It's eaten by super many people.
You can see this proverb is really mixing us up.
What's your interpretation of the proverb?
When a ripe fruit sees an honest man,
it drops.
It drops. I think for me, the essence of the ripe fruit is that you need to eat it and it nourishes your body. I would interpret it as a form of a reward for honesty, which is important. I think the fact that it acknowledges that you have earned to have it, which is a motivation. I think for me, it serves to motivate us to try to be honest, because then there's a reward for being honest. That's how I interpret it.
The big question, though,
Yes.
is how do you define honesty?
Maybe honesty could, step in for right. Could be a play on words. At the right time,
The right person.
the right person will make things
Move.
happen. Or things will happen as they were destined to be at the right time.
I'm asking you that in the context of what we're going to discuss today, which is just looking broadly at Chapter 6 of our Constitution, leadership and integrity.
Yes.
When Wanjiru was giving us her own interpretation of it, she took it into leadership and said, in Kenya, this proverb cannot apply because first, getting a ripe fruit in Kenya, ngumu. Getting an honest person in Kenya, ngumu.
Yes. And I disagreed.
And even if you find an honest fruit,
And the right, then it will be the
it
wrong
will not
tree.
accept to fall down.
And the honest man will not agree to walk by the tree.
wasn't registered because we didn't understand it. In simple terms, please.
Yeah. So, Anne, what is this all about? I mean, if you think about it, you said it's a reward for honesty.
Yes.
In the context of our conversation.
I think for me, I would look at it as a country and narrowing down to the question of leadership and integrity. I think that for us, the temptation as a country is to always focus on the political leadership, which is part and parcel of the integral leadership ecosystem. But leadership must start at the basics. There are various institutions in our country that so badly require leadership and integrity, and collectively, that's how we aspire towards Chapter 6. If you look at whether it's our schools, whether it's our community centers, whether it's the quality of life and what's happening at the grassroots level of our country, there are various elements of integrity and leadership that must be questioned, and we have to get it right. We always say often as a country, our leadership is a product of ourselves. We are reflected as a nation through the quality of leaders we put in place, whether it's in political leadership, whether it's at local level. So for me, as we question and look at the leadership aspect as a country, I personally consciously tell myself to not just focus on that high-level leadership, which is where we always point towards, but we must start having the conversation at our homes, within our communities, at personal level. I mean, they always say the test for leadership and integrity is, if no one else is watching you, would you do the right thing? And if we can answer that, as idealistic as it sounds, that's a basic for me for us to have that conversation as a country.
So leadership comes all the way down to the smallest unit.
Absolutely.
Say a family unit.
Yes.
Do we have honest leaders then in this country? Starting from that family unit, going all the way up, the way you've just described.
Yes.
If no one else is watching, would you do the right thing?
For me, I'll use the example and the reality of where I work, which is FIDA Kenya. And by virtue of our work, we really do deal with a lot of cases at the lowest level, which is a family. And as a Kenyan sitting at FIDA Kenya, when I look at a lot of the strife, a lot of the cases that present themselves to us, whether it's directly or through our partners, that speaks to the quality of whether it's leadership, whether it's the kind of society we are bringing up. We should not have cases where we have to take you to court unless you really have a reason not to take care of your child. Why should parting ways as a couple be so brutal and violent? Isn't there a way out? Why should we speak of femicide? Why should we speak of defilement of small children, then expect miracles within the other context? And I say this because I know we often speak a lot about what's happening within the political arena, but as a women's movement, I'll use where I work again, we've raised a lot of questions about how we treat the most vulnerable within our community. As FIDA Kenya, I personally have been part of we've organized demonstrations where we've had such gruesome cases of violence against women. And of course, then because it was not so much in the political arena, people would not take so much note. But we have been on the streets of the country as collectively as a women's movement. So back to your question, Eric, I feel that for us to nurture the leadership that we need as a country, it must start at the family level, and we must create safe spaces for children to grow up, children who are not overly exposed to vices within the nation, whether it's corruption, whether it's rejection, whether it's lack of integrity, whether it's violence, because you cannot raise a young generation filled with violence and expect miracles at leadership. So we must heavily invest as a nation. We must have the conversation within the family. We must mainstream it in terms of what we are teaching our children. Then we can start speaking of having leaders that we can hold to account. But as we speak, what we have is a reality that has been years and years of whether we have normalized corruption, whether we've normalized abuse, we have normalized not doing the right thing. I mean, why is it as a country that if you have a public service vehicle or any public space and I forget my purse and the matatu owner finds my purse, we have to celebrate that. I mean, that should be the most basic and mundane of things. So we have to reflect, and sadly, I think for us as a country, that train of not having integrity has long left the station, but we have to force it one way or the other. That's the only place, in my view, the redemption of the country lies.
How can these conversations and then onto action take place simultaneously with this rat race that we talk about as the reason why we don't pay attention to what many would say are subjective issues, morals and things like that? And that is, how can you sit here and talk about right and wrong and what we should be doing when we're trying to look for food to eat? You get? And so when we say that these things ought to happen, Anne, how ought they to happen? How? And I think that's the conflict oftentimes, or the difficult, the challenge is, how do we get people to take a minute and step back and say, look, the things that we suffer as a result of majorly our attitude towards them, or the decisions that we make as individuals. It doesn't matter what level you're at. As a child, somebody working in an office, somebody working for government, right? It's the decisions you make. And oftentimes they are based on the values that you have set. But how do we start to have that conversation with people who are looking for food? How do we start to have that conversation in a crisis with education? And I think this is the challenge, that how do we do this?
I think for me, I hear you, but from where I sit, there is hope, in the sense that Kenyans understand the importance of that conversation. That's why in various quarters they show up to vote, they show up when there's a rally, and they also go to religious places. They take time to set time aside, whether it's to go to the mosque or to the church. So it means we can create time for things that are important. The disconnect for us as Kenyans, and for me, I always reiterate it, is on the questions and the things that matter the most to us. We feel they are not our business, but they're the business of other people. And I'll give an example. At FIDO, we run a social accountability program where we've been trying to empower citizens to interrogate, especially at county levels, expenditure, budgets that come out. And we do understand, I mean, you don't need to be, most of us are not accountants. We are not financial experts, but taking an interest. An interest means either you avail yourself to interrogate or to listen to when the county government is raising an issue. If you're a lady who runs her business at the market, questioning, why don't you have a clean market area? Why don't I have electricity? Look at Nairobi, for example. It is a city in darkness, let's be honest. It's really dark. Citizens must ask the question, and then secondly, link the fact that we are paying taxes, we are not getting the services we deserve. Will we sit and complain? Kenyans are very good at complaining, and especially those who have access to social media. We raise all our questions there, but yet, when there's an opportunity for us to contribute and ask questions, we don't show up. And does it always mean it's going to be easy? No. We must push back, because the minute we're not pushing back from the exclusion and everyone else being renegated, because for me it's intentional, that people are so caught up in the bread and butter issues that they cannot take time to question other things. we have to sacrifice and realize, even for democracies and countries that have achieved idealistic values, there was a price to it. And we don't need to go far. A lot of our neighbors within the region have a very different integrity barometer. In fact, they make fun of us as a nation. We have to be honest that Kenyans are known not to be honest. Why is it that you'll go to Tanzania or any other country and find different ideals? There was a deliberate effort and ownership by citizens that this is our country. We are going to make sure we run it the way we'd like to, and we will participate in whatever level it is that we are required to do, to be part and parcel of. Kenyans, on the other hand, and I'm a Kenyan, we expect a reward for participation. You'll go for meetings, then people question, okay, so where is the transport? Where is the fare? And yes, there is a cost of living issue, but we cannot reduce every participation we expect to be part of as Kenyans to a handout, to being incentivized. Then that's how we are where we are. We should be able to take time and say, look, there's something going on at the town hall. Let me go listen. I'll carry my water from the house, or I'll save, because in any case you are to have lunch somewhere, even if it was a humble lunch. Let me take time and participate. And the minute people know, especially leadership, that there is no price tag to your participation, the game will change. So it's not going to be easy. But Kenyans must then see the next as that, because we are always incentivized, we are always rewarded to participate, this is what we are reaping. So we have to take, it's not going to be easy, but there's a painful cost to it. Do parents go to school and ask for reimbursement? Do they say we are not going to participate in our school affairs because we are not being rewarded? They don't, because this is something most important to them. This is their children's affairs.
Why do you consider it as a reward? I mean, why do you relate this very well laid out, well processed, well articulated perspective as a reward?
Very good question, CT. But you'll ask it again after the break.
Okay, if I can remember.
Remember it. 29 minutes after 9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. This morning, hosting Anne Ireri, the executive director of FIDA Kenya, and also the chair of the ELOG, which is the electoral. What is it in full?
Electoral Observation Group.
Oh, wondering whether the L is for the election or
it's Election Observation Group.
Okay.
ELOG, yes.
The Election Observation Group, which is a consortium of civic actors who monitor elections in the country. We'll be back shortly after we take this break. As we go into the break, CT will remind you about Showmax and the new series, Blockbuster, isn't it?
Blockbuster.
It's called what? Faithless.
It is.
Yeah.
You know, when one talks about movie dramas, for me, series, movie.
When one being you.
It's movie, okay? It's action in motion. It's a movie, okay? Though even if you cut it up into what you call episodes, it's still a movie with episodes. But it's how you relate to it. How, when you watch what you watch, the portrayal of characters, the themes in it, it relates to very many things that any Kenyan can identify with, but it goes even beyond our boundaries because it deals with human nature. At what point is honesty? At what point is self-interest only self-interest? At what point is it beneficial? At what point is it destructive? How does it erode what is considered to be community morals? All those questions actually require answers. But
as you're watching,
when you watch this,
you watch your movies. I will not watch movies with you. See, surely movies key
entertainment.
Thinking. You suspend disbelief. You get into the moment. Enjoy.
Haven't I just
philosophical?
You watch Faithless, all right?
Yes.
Episode 1, 2, 3, 4.
And then
next
tell
time
me,
you come, you'll now see whether
tell me whether everything I have said was far-fetched or whether it actually gets to the heart of the movie series.
Okay. It's Thursday. It's Faithless Thursday on Showmax, 9:30.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
James, hey, been a minute. What's been going on?
Maze, let me tell you about Maricela.
Okay.
She has wizard me anywhere. She's the best. She's reliable. She takes me to places I've never been, man. Akona quality, yani. She's never let me down. And I'm so glad she's in my life.
Wait, who are you talking about?
I see my car, man. Who did you think I was talking about?
Ebu, tell me more about this Maricela. Where did you meet and how can I get in
Are you tired of searching high and low for a pre-owned car? Introducing Automark by CFAO, your one-stop destination for quality pre-owned vehicles. Visit us today at Bellevue along Popo Road, South Sea, or give us a call on 0711 050 000 to make the first step towards your dream car. Automark by CFAO. Driving your dreams forward.
Oh, finally! It's my Standard Courier delivery.
At Standard Courier, we know that your time is valuable. That's why we guarantee swift and efficient deliveries to your doorstep every time. Give us a call on 0793 599 684 or schedule your next delivery by visiting our website www.standardmedia.co.ke/courier. Trust Standard Courier service for all your courier needs. We deliver with pride.
Bizarre Bazaar Festival July edition, Saturday 29th and Sunday 30th July, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily. Largest, most entertaining open-air market, food court, live entertainment, kids activities, fun, family-friendly event at Kenya School of TVET Gigiri. Release the strap. More info at BizBaz Events on socials.
Oh, finally! It's my Standard Courier delivery.
At Standard Courier, we know that your time is valuable. That's why we guarantee swift and efficient deliveries to your doorstep every time. Give us a call on 0793 599 684 or schedule your next delivery by visiting our website www.standardmedia.co.ke/courier. Trust Standard Courier service for all your courier needs. We deliver with pride.
You have been saving and are now seeking a safe and secure investment for a profitable return. For an investment that is cushioned from inflation, call 0719 034 550. With a deposit of as little as 250,000, you can now start collecting rental income from your unit at Elmer Estate in Kasarani by Centum Real Estate.
Okay, so traffic has not been an issue this morning, and we're looking at movement throughout the city in a smooth manner. A little bit of a hold up, and that's outbound on Mombasa Road. So there's construction of the lower road, as we now know it to be, which still continues in and out until probably the end of this month. So apart from that, that's the only thing that we'll see right now. Otherwise, traffic is flowing smoothly and shouldn't have any issues. It's been a good morning with traffic. How about we try that again tomorrow? Yes. And then let's talk on Spice FM. KE on Twitter.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
FIDA Kenya and chair of ILOG is our guest. Wanjiru Gikonyo is our guest host today. CT, here's your challenge. Do you remember your question?
Of course not.
Okay. Come up with a new one.
Did you write it down?
Of course not.
Okay.
As predicted, as you predicted. Can I jump in?
Yes, please jump in.
You forgot, for real?
Absolutely. That's what the break is meant for. You need to forget what you wanted to ask.
Yes, Wanjiru.
Decompress. So, I think we are all grappling with how do we create the change we want to see. Mm-hmm. And just two reflections. One, it is a change moment. Mm-hmm. I think there's a sense, much as there's all this political, shenanigans going on, it is a change moment.
Yes.
There are things that can't continue as they are. Mm-hmm. And that is why there was such strong support for the Kenya Kwanza, party. They came in working against the state, and the amount of, whether there's contestation around some aspects of the election, mm-hmm. There was support on the ground because Kenyans want change.
Yes.
How do we get that change? And, how do we deal with values? Mm-hmm. Joko Budhi, who's also been on this program, talks about, different publics, that there is the Kenyan who goes to church, then there is the Kenyan who goes to the political rally. Those are different people. Then there is the Kenyan who engages with government. And when Kenyans engage with government, they feel that's an outside entity to me.
Yes.
When I go to church or when I'm within my homestead, that is internal to me. So there is this disconnect because of a sense of maybe ingrained injustice, that these institutions are more coercive to me than they are facilitative to me. So I identify more with my family, the inner. So how do we get citizens to identify with the political system, with their governance system? I think that's the question. If we're going to do family education, we have to recognize that if you do family education in Nairobi to somebody living in the informal settlements, working in the informal sector, you can't, and you're talking values, well and good, but then social justice. You have a system that has marginalized people and continues to do so. So I'm not really saying I have an answer, but I'm just saying our realities.
Yes.
Yeah, how do we deal with that?
For me, I feel that, and as you've said rightly, we have to address the factors that are impeding Kenyans to resonate with leadership, and they need to have the proper and leaders who have integrity in place across the board. I think for me, one would be to ensure that we have continuous investment in civic education and political education. And this will have to be at the cost of Kenyans ourselves. I think we have often waited for support, which is not, there's nothing wrong with that, but we must have the homegrown and home-driven efforts to ensure that we have political education, especially because that's the disconnect, that Kenyans resonate and understand their lack of involvement, whether it's intentional or deliberate, has consequences. Then secondly, we must boldly as a country address inclusion, political inclusion of everyone. And this is going to be a very difficult conversation, and it must be driven by the citizens. It's not a political question. A lot of the problems you're facing as a country politically have been caused by the political class, and we're expecting the political class to have solutions. This cannot happen, and that's why we have been pushing. And there's hope, for example, with the bipartisan talks. There has got to be the deliberate effort to include everyone at the table. It's not a question for the political class. It's not their problem. We are all in it as Kenyans, and we must address inclusion. What does that mean? We must go to the bottom and ensure that anyone who would have been marginalized or excluded has access to information that they can understand and digest, and have an opportunity to come to the table, whether directly or indirectly, but have their views heard and felt. And rightly, as you see, what gives me hope is that there's that awakening in Kenyans are aware. I mean, look at whatever has been happening in the recent past, whatever your reason for raising your voice, whether for or against the political main discourse, whether it's a protest or whatever we want to call it, there is that association by Kenyans that they have a view on the matter. And that for me is very important. It's landmark. Compared to a lot of countries, Kenyans are largely invested in the political issue. So that's an investment that we need to take and use it positively and ensure it's not lost at the election day. And that's why we keep on questioning that and raising the awareness. For Kenyans, elections is not the day of the election. We must move beyond and to be part of the process. And how we do that, I'll give an example. At the local level, again, we go to the local level when things are not going right, whether it's injustice, whether it's we have even children amongst us who we know are criminals or have criminal elements, whether they're in conflict with the law, whether they are the small petty thieves. How do we address that as a community? Because then if we cannot collectively find solutions to rehabilitate them, to find a way out to make them better citizens, we cannot be fully part of the process at the top. And I mean, a lot of things people will say are idealistic, but they're not. They are practical solutions. If we go to the market day and you find a police officer, I'll just give an example, or a county council employee who perhaps people feel is not doing the right thing. Maybe they are trying to extort money from people. What do we do about it? And what power do we have within the confines of law? So there is hope. And for me, again, I say because Kenyans are invested in what is happening to them. The cost of living is not sparing anyone. So that's an opportunity to even start the conversation and take it further. What do we do about the country? How do we better manage our finances? And for me, that's a good start to ensure that we are all part of the conversation. But let me ask this question.
Yes. I mean, we have this conversation that Kenyans seems to have made a mistake when they went to the ballot and chose the leaders that they chose. Mm-hmm. If we take that narrative to its logical conclusion, then it would mean every 5 years Kenyans make a terrible mistake. Because if you look at the turnover of the elected leaders, it's high. Perhaps we are saying something that isn't being listened to, and we ourselves, even as we are saying it, we don't hear it. This thing that we refer to as corruption, can we pause a little bit and perhaps examine it closely? We like the idea of ensuring that we get what we want. Call it a coping mechanism. Parting with a few shillings seemed to solve that problem. And you take that matter, give it a full breath and look at everything that involves, say, law enforcement, like driving a car, having the correct licenses, and not having it, and the consequences that follow. A little money helps solve that problem. But what does it tell you? For you to look for an easier way of solving it, it means that what has been laid down as a solution for such a problem is burdensome. People do not feel that that process will serve their interest. So should you not look at that and say, if people prefer an alternative way, it's not that they're corrupt, it's a coping mechanism that they have for dealing with something which they feel ordinarily would be burdensome to them. It's something they'd rather not deal with. That's why the term coping mechanism comes into play. If you look at the choices of leaders, yes, we seem to say they make a mistake. But it's like we know that these are the people who will provide us with the ease of passage. Because if you have leaders who represent this view that we have, this coping mechanism, then we're in a good place. Because they will then now not force us to follow the route that doesn't serve our interest. So the politicians serve their interest, we also serve our interest. Now there's this higher moral calling and platform that we say we should aspire to. Why should we? If we say that bribery is bad, why? It's against the law? Then why don't we change that law so that we set limits? For overspeeding, you are only allowed to give a bribe of 200 shillings, no more.
No. You can negotiate up to 200.
You can negotiate up to 200, but if it goes beyond then,
it's a fine.
It's a fine, yes. And then now the issue of the digital economy that Mheshimiwa was talking about comes into play. You have all my details, and I will pay the fine right there and then. And even if I don't, create an IOU system where you know at some point I will have to pay you. I'm simply saying this.
Yes.
If we look at the matters that bedevil us in the same way we've been looking at them for God knows how long, you know what that means. We're not really going to make any movement forward. And I'm saying this. The people are speaking. We are speaking. We are actually telling anybody who cares to listen and ourselves that this is how we actually want to function. And we find it works for us.
Does it?
Actually, it's called a coping mechanism. It works for you at the time it does, because you do not have the faith that this long-term view that you keep talking about will actually work. So let me deal with what I can on a daily basis. If the other one works, I will see it. But for the time being...
Then probably CT,
yes.
Then what the people are actually expressing, it's not a satisfaction with the current state of affairs. It's a frustration.
Yes, it is.
They're venting.
Yes, it is.
When they keep changing the leaders, it's because they think, no, this something is not working. Exactly. It's not working.
Yes.
The problem is in the identification of the right leader.
Yes.
Is maybe in knowing, so how do I vet and know that this is the right leader?
Yes.
But if everybody who is coming up for election is using the top leaders that we have in our country as, their moral compass.
Yes.
And everybody, all of us are looking at it and comparing. City and tax mama. City is too soft, bana. Atachaguliwa na nani? It's because we are looking at our national leaders, and which is why our topic today is on do our national leaders actually promote Chapter 6 of our Constitution on leadership, on integrity. When they behave the way they behave, when they go out there and they call each other Willemze or Chieta or what, when they're using such words in public, are they sending the right signals?
Yes, they are applying the sentiments of chapter 6, but chapter 6b. Because, and let us see it for what it is. Because they, better than us, know exactly what chapter 6 puts across as what is desired. They understand it so well that when the government that was tasked with the monumental burden of implementing this tax, that they first started altering this chapter. They made sure that they went to town in altering it, so that what we were left with was so bastardized that it actually can't do anything substantive. Now, again, they are speaking to us, meaning this person we knew and whom we know, this person, when elected, should give us what we desire. We elect them. Then they get there. Listen, when people are sent to positions of authority, they change. Okay? They change. Now, that metamorphosis, let's not run away from it. What is it that makes them change the way they do? Because it's a conversation we have. They change. Now, when they are in a position where there's genuine power, they really change. To the point where we don't even recognize them.
In fact, Siti, what you're speaking to it's interesting, and this conversation is compelling because on one hand, Anne, you talk about the family, and the values in the family, and the issue of domestic relations as domestic violence. And the question I'd ask there is, as FIDA, you've been quite involved in this space. The women's movement has been involved. Do you think there's been an over-legal approach to dealing with the social issues in society at that level? And then at this other level, talking about leadership and integrity as ELOG, what would you say? Because my sense is that our electoral system is the weakest link in our democracy, and chapter 6 hinges on that. So that the way you get into nomination, the way you get into being elected is all about money, and it's about, if you look at the nomination process, if you look at, there's all the violations of chapter 6 begin in the build-up. So the moment you get in, you're beholden, you're paying back, then the system breaks down again in that there are no checks, or the checks that are there are superficial. They are not really bringing that individual accountability. So the system, to my view, is very broken. So on one hand, at family level, where possibly we can do a lot of influence, we are not. So we are not doing that family education. We are not talking about values. We are not, schooling ourselves.
This system you're speaking of, which system is it? The one you say is broken.
I'm saying at family level, our family system and values are broken to the extent that there's a lot of violence going on. And my question then is, has the women movement that have really done a lot in bringing this issue to the fore, the legislation, is it time for us, for the women's movement to look and say, let's deal with this as a social issue and let's change tact? But then also at the national level, it's the electoral system.
It's the systems that...
It's the system, and the systems that link, the accountability, political accountability system. That system is not working. And if you tell citizens to hold leaders to account, how will they? Are you saying recall? But
I think for me, if I may, because it's quite a handful, and I'll try and attempt to respond to what City has raised in terms of the convenience or coping mechanism. I'll start with the family, and as you say, I think one of the things we've done as a country, and we always raise it factually, is that we have tried to overly prescribe a solution for everything. And you can't, because a lot of problems, there's no law, there's no policy that will fix it. And so in the instance of family issues, we've gone a step further to say the law is not sufficient. Can we conduct awareness? We've done a lot of civic education, alternative dispute resolution, such as mediation, and using opinion leaders within the community to try and resolve a lot of the cases that ideally don't need to go to court, because you go to court, the litigation system is acrimonious. You'll end up having a winner and a loser loser. So that does not preserve the family. So we have been able to give solutions, and the judiciary is aware that really, especially in the family unit, let's preserve the court system or the laws for matters that must go to court. Matters that are complex, such as possibly property disputes, criminal cases for sure have to go through the justice system. But for other issues where we just have a disagreement, or we are agreeing that we are not as good for the children as living under one roof, as possibly co-parenting, there are solutions. And Kenyans, by the way, are really embracing the fact that you can co-parent, you can raise children together. It's not enmity. So there is hope in that. Towards a system, and that's a larger question that Wanjiru has raised, from our perspective as election players, we have a very good legislative framework. It was well thought out. Remember, we spoke about the cyclic nature. The problem is now when you have the vested interests who do not want to comply with the issue of timelines. And I'll single out an example. We are operating currently without commissioners at the IEBC. Every Kenyan knows that. Next week, it will be 1 year after the elections. We still don't have commissioners in the office. Have we raised that? We have. Do people know that we need to fast track? They do. So we'll end up again, history will repeat itself. We'll end up very late in the day having office bearers, yet reports after report have given the benefit of having commissioners in office at a good time. So is it a question of the system not being able, or the legal provisions not being sufficient? They are. It's a vested interest. It's the fact that now we want to play have interest and play games with what we know needs to happen. As a country, we are not even speaking about the issue of delimitation of boundaries. We are time barred. We are supposed to have done it. And that requires a very sober legislative process, whether it's at Parliament, whether it's at National Assembly or Senate. The politicians or the political class and the legislators especially have to embrace their mandate, which is to give life to the law, devoid of your political interest. You took an oath of office to safeguard the Constitution. That's not an easy oath. I've personally undertaken that oath in my capacity as an advocate of the High Court. It's a very weighty oath. That means you must do the right thing. You must be able to put your heart of a political player aside and ask yourselves collectively, what are we expected to do within the law as lawmakers? So that's where we are failing. And we have to push and keep pushing. And by the way, doing the right thing often has pushbacks. So we must be able to continuously keep the momentum and be able to do what is required, whether it's registration of voters in good time, whether it's investing everything. Everyone is now quiet on matters election until the last minute, and we start running helter-skelter. And we are doing the same thing over and over. So why should we expect different results? But
are we really quiet on matters of election?
I don't think we are putting sufficient pressure.
We is who here?
The Kenyans.
The voter.
The voter. And I'll quantify.
Please quantify.
I'll quantify. I included. We have given too much power to the political leader. They are there by virtue of our vote. So we must be able to recall our members of parliament, for example, and ask them, what are you doing towards this milestone? It's something we must undertake as a country. And so we must empower the individual citizen to be able to ask that question.
How is the individual powered? And I think that's the thing. The how-tos are said, prescribed. But then how? How do we empower a citizen to say, you know what? You who is living, we don't have to talk about the proverbial person who's the mamamboga, as we always say. The person who is living in their home with their children, saying, empower this individual to be able to ask questions of their most immediate leader, of the person whose vote then was given. How does this individual, because essentially what we're talking about, go to your ward office, have a conversation about this thing which you said you would do, what you ought to have done which you have not done. We're asking for answers. Is that what we're talking about?
That's what we're talking about. And I speak again from a perspective where I know Kenyans have done very well to collectively organize at grassroots level. Leave the petitions in those offices. Say, look, we elected you as a ward representative. We don't see you. You have to answer certain questions. And the Constitution gives us very good mechanisms to be able to even recall members of parliament. Why are we not doing it? It's because, again, as I say, we have glorified leaders who are there by virtue of our vote.
So we've seen
and why? How have we creatively created that ecosystem of glorification? One, it's a corruption. Two, we are not able to ask the questions. I mean, why is it in our country we have to be pushed off the road for someone to pass, yet it's not an emergency vehicle? I mean, those are the conversations, and they're not easy conversations, but we must ask. This, this mheshimiwa mentality, at the end of the day, you are there to serve us. Not that we are disrespecting you, but we put you in office, you sought a job, and we need to be able to have you answer us. So we have to empower the citizen to move away from the mheshimiwa complex, because that's what...
How do we empower the citizen? The citizen is empowered by the Constitution.
Number one, we must be able to limit the power that comes with, whether it's money not earned well, but two, that lack of access. And it's not difficult. These people, when they are looking for votes...
consider, you see, there's a nexus here.
Yes.
How do you get the Mwananchi to understand that this coping mechanism and compromise is what results in you allowing this mheshimiwa to get away with murder? Because if you accept the things he gives you, you may not think so. You may think it's a coping mechanism, but you've compromised. That's what you don't understand.
I think for me, we have the right opportunity right now.
Yes.
Every Kenyan is complaining about something, rightfully or not.
Yeah.
We must now take that conversation further for the Kenyan to understand we are in this situation. We also have a role to play in how we ended up where we are. There's something that was expected of us. Whether we were empowered to carry out that duty, we were not able to, but we are where we are because of the consequences.
No, I agree with you, but do we even understand the corrupting influence of that sort of compromise? It gets to your soul. It's not something that is academic. It gets to the very being that represents you.
I think for me, and that's why it's not an easy thing, but Kenyans must be bold. And where we take some faith is that, especially for us who have gone to the grassroots areas, and you see a lot of Kenyans who have come out to play their role, they are doing it well. The first question we must start, and even if we'll do it tonight, and I'd want to pose that to the nation, why have we normalized such serious occurrences in our country? We have, as we speak, a very sad situation happening at the coast in our nation, but we have normalized it. No one is coming out to ask, what's the cost of these women and children and families who disappeared? They are people's loved ones.
Yeah.
It's not bothering us enough as Kenyans. And if that cannot bother us, then will corruption of 100 shilling, 200 shillings bother us?
That won't.
Exactly. So we have to go back to the basics. Where is it? And on this city, I hear you, but we are the same Kenyans. God forbid a truck rolls just right now outside the gate of Standard Group. People will start running to see what they can get for themselves.
Yeah, what's it carrying?
What is it carrying before you even rescue the driver? So that is how low we have sunk. And it is going to take a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
We must get the shovels to dig ourselves out of this mud hole that we got ourselves into as a country to be able to play our part.
Thank you very much. Anne Ireri is the chair of the Electoral Observation Group, ELOG, and also the executive director of FIDA Kenya. She's been our guest. Wanjiru Gikonyo has been our guest host. We've really come to the top of the hour. Time for us to leave, and we'll be back here tomorrow, Friday. Have a good one, and make sure you look out for... Ednah, what are you doing in my fader? Look out for the 4th episode of Faithless on Showmax, 10 a.m.
The government will talk to Kenyans with the intention of explaining the ease of accessing government services by using